Two penises.
PSA shuts down and gets millions of subs. We got the bricks and minifigs debacle to talk about. And is it the end of CGC 99s? We're going to talk about all these stories coming up next on the Ungraded Truth Podcast.
Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how can it ever get crazier? And then it always does.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the #1 collectible show in the universe, The Ungraded Truth. I am Swaggle Haas, joined, of course, as always, by my co-host, Ryan, Automatic Comics, Neo, Cards and Comics, and Manu, the 99 Newsstand. Gentlemen, we got the band back together. I feel like it's been a little while since we've had all four of us on the screen at the same time. We had to take a week off because of summer schedules, and we have lives beyond that of collectibles. It's been crazy, but it's good to see all you guys.
Great to see.
Yeah, glad to be back. And yes,
we have lives beyond the lives.
Ooh.
We have lives beyond the lives. That sounds like a good t-shirt. We should make t-shirts, by the way. But yeah, we have a big show tonight. Thanks so much to everyone for hanging out in the chat. Lots to talk about. I mean, we got PSA stories, their backlog. We got to address the bricks and minifigs situation, which, of course, none of us here are lawyers and none of us are even Lego experts. But I feel like from a collecting standpoint, we could at least have an interesting conversation about it. And then we have lots of other stories to get into. But of course, before we get there, we got to do a little bit of a housekeeping. If you guys have not yet subscribed to the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, please head over to the link in the description. Go give us a sub. We are past 1,500 subscribers. It's on and popping over there. Sometimes we do clip outs and we put stuff on that channel specifically. So if you want to get exclusive clips, you got to subscribe to that YouTube channel. Also, hop on over to the link in that description. Hop over to our Spotify. If you guys want to listen to us on your favorite RSS feed, you can hop over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those things, and go give us a follow over there. Go give us a like. Go give us a 5-star review. We would definitely appreciate it. Of course, the Ungraded Truth stream is a live broadcast across all of our various YouTube channels and social medias. If you are not subscribed to all the guys on the panel, be sure to sub them up, give them our support because we appreciate their insights that they give us every single show. Well, gentlemen, we got to just jump right into it. We got to go with our lead story. Let's not bury the lead any longer, but we have to talk about how PSA recently, or I should say about a week ago, came out with the announcement that they are pausing their value tier submissions due to a demand in spiked prices. This has been one of the big stories coming out of the card world. They made mention to the fact that they have a backlog of 10 million cards, and that's one of the reasons why they had to shut down this service. If you guys are comic book collectors, that would essentially be them shutting down kind of the modern tier, the lower price service. But since this story broke, there's been a flurry of submissions going into PSA's doors, to which point now their 10 million backlog submission is being speculated on, maybe incorrectly speculated on, into the 17 million, 20 million. We have these Twitter beefs and battles going over here where Neo is responding to Boston Card Hunter saying it's more in the 14 to 15 million. We have Nat Turner responding to the Boston Card Hunter post about him saying that it's 17 million, saying that it's not accurate. We'll table the story right there. We're going to talk a little bit about this, exchange right here. But Rob, let me kick it over to you. Let's talk a little bit about the story in general. PSA, they're printing money over there. What's going on?
Pikachu and Charizard are real popular, and people want to take their little plastic cards and put it in other plastic with a little label on it that makes it worth way more money. And PSA can't print plastic and labels fast enough, apparently, to keep up and assign little numbers in corners. And it is, you ground the industry to a halt, basically.
Yeah.
Just insane. It's just absolutely insane that we are back to right where we started in the COVID bubble of 2021 when they had to shut down the first time.
About how many more cards are they grading now? Like, because I know they increased their capacity from COVID versus now.
Way more. Like, I think they were grading like 50K a month back then. and they're grading 2 million a month now.
Was it really that low? It was like under 100,000.
I
Like that's because that's crazy.
Well, let me-
if that's the case.
It's gone way up from the beginning.
As Neil looks that up, it's important to point out as I kind of further set up the story. This is coming off our last show where we talked about how PSA was investing 200 million just so they can increase their capacity in order to do more grading. But it's just kind of hilarious that after they made that announcement, they followed up with this one and they had to shut down their doors because they just, again, still have too much inventory to go through. But Rob, I don't know if you found out what's.
It'll take me a hot minute.
Okay.
And I mean, and I don't. Like, I know some people get upset because, they say like, oh, you should be like boosting your grading numbers and all that kind of stuff as much as possible. But like, I mean, I've seen the interviews before and it makes sense. Like if you massively increase the number of graders that you have, and this ends up being a bubble that just collapses. Now you either have a bunch of extra machinery and everything else for processing and a bunch of people you got to lay off. Like I understand being conservative on that, but man, it's at what point, it's the question, I guess, at what point does all this grading reduce? Like, is there anything that's really going to cause that to reduce with, with all because I think we all know it, like most of this comes from the whole like gambling side of it. It's like all the mystery packs and the power packs and all that kind of stuff. And like, at what point does that diminish? And I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't really see so much of the appeal of it, but clearly there's plenty of people out there that do.
Yeah.
So the quickest number that I could get to was in January 2022, which was 9 months after the last shutdown. They were grading 750,000 per month.
Okay.
But 9 months prior to that, I believe that number was substantially lower.
Right.
It is really interesting because Ryan, to tie in what you had just put out there, like what could actually slow this thing down. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that, say, Rob, since that 2022 thing, the big difference is like the economy that is the repacking world, the vending machines, all of these companies that have popped up and have a need to just have this bulk inventory come through their doors. And I feel like that's something that we have to kind of talk a little bit more about a little later on. But Manu, I want to rope you into just broad thoughts when you kind of heard, this shutdown, this backlog, the numbers increasing, what's your kind of feeling right now on PSA's trading card world?
I think it's something along the lines of what I said in one of the previous episodes. Like, I understand the idea of, well, if you really want them slabbed by PSA for the ROI and maybe that's your grading company of choice, I enjoy a PSA slabbed card, then just get it in and eventually it'll get done, right? But again, just my truth is that's very discouraging for me. And I'm the sort of person that I understand the idea of, well, the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take. I just end up not submitting, just to be honest, And if there's like some card that I have that's super valuable, well, that tier is still open. And if the cost for grading is justified, then I'll have fun that way. But part of me having fun with grading is not challenging my impatience. I just don't like waiting that long when there's nothing actionable for me to do in the meantime. Maybe that's not a very reasonable perspective, but collecting isn't always very reasonable. I want to submit something. I want to be nervous and have the jitters about what the grade's going to be, but I want to get to that grade reveal sooner than later because it's part of the fun for me. And set it and forget it is just not that fun for me. And that's where I'm at from like the collector submitter perspective, which saddens me a bit to say, but I did end up getting a submission in prior to the shutdown. And one of the orders, I did get grades for that. And one order, it looks like I'm going to get grades soon. The cards are in assembly, but I don't remember how long cards remain in assembly.
Were
But
those
that's
value
right.
submissions or were they higher dollar submissions?
The one that I'm waiting, no, like not low, like $89 a card, I think it was, or $79 a card. Those are the ones I'm waiting on right now. It wasn't like months and months. It was like a 25 business day submission for the ones that I'm waiting on right now.
So they're
Something
still
along
accepting those too, though, right?
Yeah,
Like,
regular service, $79 and up, you could still send in. And there is one small loophole on value submissions. You could still submit at the $50 level if it's purchased directly through eBay.
Oh, Oh, that's a nice tidbit. I don't think I was aware of that. Again,
Of course, just
And
another
you will
another
get it
part of
back
the PSA,
in
cornering the market,
yeah, and I have an opinion on that as well. Again, very personal to me. I don't like direct submissions. I like to assess the card or the comic, for that matter, physically myself before making a decision. I don't have all that much confidence in my not only just my abilities to assess the condition through a picture, but just the confidence in a picture to give me the details. Like, I don't want to make the decision of am I submitting this card based on an image, because I'm not willy-nilly submitting, right? I'm not just submitting whatever the grade is. Haha, it's a good time. No, I'm submitting with intention, and so I want to see it physically. So that wouldn't be something that I could effectively use, and that's all right. That's okay. But yeah, if I have a card of significant value, then I'm still able to have a good time. But the idea of like a bulk submission, wasn't it something like didn't the bulk go up from 20 to 50 right before the shutdown, and then there was a shutdown, right? Like, that tier is gone now.
It's how many you had to submit to
minimum,
qualify for a bulk. Yeah.
Right.
Not like
the
the price didn't go up. It was the number of cards.
The number went from a 20 card minimum to a 50 card. And I have some friends that were preparing because they were already bummed that the minimum went up to 50, and they started to prepare. Well, I'm talking about one friend in particular that shared this sentiment with me, and he began to prepare his 50 card order. And right on the heels of that, I think that's the term, it shut down. And then he put in a phone call to PSA, and PSA's customer service, these are all guesses, but they said at a minimum, we're looking at 4 months at a minimum as an expectation to when these tiers might reopen. And that might be optimistic. I'm just sharing with you what some information was that someone got that was preparing an order. But those are my loose thoughts on it.
It'll be closer to, we have the updated number now from Nat, with them getting another 4 million in. That puts the total at about 14 million. And that would probably add about another 2 months on until they clear that out. So you're probably looking at like 6.5 months until they reopen.
I would think it's maybe even more than that, though, because I thought I saw some people saying that they got their estimated return times, and it was like February or March next year for value.
I saw something. Oh, I thought maybe you guys shared something.
That's 6 months, and then you
that's on. It's more. I mean, I'm just saying that's like 8 or 9 months at that point.
Yeah, but they always PSA tends to overshoot that stuff, so they could come in looking better than they are.
Well, let's double click on that for a second. Let's kind of really flesh this out a little bit, because, like you said, Rob, you had your post. You speculated that it was going to be 14 to 15 million after Card Hunter speculated it was 17 million. Nat came in. Nat, of course, runs PSA collectors. Yeah, it's not accurate per usual. We got about 4 million cards in the 5 days from the announcement. So, in theory, we're up to 14 million, 15 million, that sort of thing. But also, the other tiers are still open, kind of like what you're saying, Manu. Like, if you have a more expensive card, it's still available to you. And I was kind of throwing out the speculation, like, let's say, the minimum tier that's open right now is I got to pay $80 for a max insured card of $1,500. Well, let's say I pull a $500 card. Normally I would submit that value tier, but maybe I'll pay $80 to submit it if I can still get $400 out of it. So I say all that to say, they have 14 million now, maybe 15 million. And in the coming months, they're still going to be getting however many cards are submitted in these tiers. Yeah. Maybe that's not nearly the amounts that the value tier brings in, but
I bet it increases, though. I bet that number goes up.
So I lay that all out to kind of throw back to you guys again of like, they're saying 6 months. I know, Rob, you mentioned maybe by Christmas time it's open, but like, I don't know. Like, what do we think? Is this really gonna, settle? Or
value tiers where I don't know the specifics, but a large amount of their volume comes from that value tier that they get per month. Like, there's not enough cards being pulled on a daily basis to super back them up at an $80 per card level.
I mean, the crazy thing, though, is like, if you just think about the fact that they made this announcement and in 5 days they had 4 million cards submitted, then like, think about this being shut down for 6 months. How many, because to me, it's probably not really so much your everyday collectors. Obviously we know that's not really what's causing this problem. It's the, the people that submit stuff that are sending in pallets of cards so that they can use them in, the mystery boxes and all that kind of stuff. And so I imagine when this opens back up, those same groups, they need to have just as much volume coming in. They're probably going to submit another 10 million cards within the week or two that it opens back up, and you're going to be right back where you started. I don't, unless they massively increase what they can handle in that window of time, I think it's going to be trouble in the 6 months from now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure their capacity is going to grow way more. They announced that they're dumping $200 million in the expanding it. But the other thing too is that when they shut down last time, they just didn't fully reopen on day one. It was a tiered approach to slowly let stuff flow through the door. Like they started bringing back.
They shut down more though last time, didn't they? Shut down those like the $79 and like it was only like the highest end tier that was.
Yeah, they did shut down more, but like this time around, my guess is that they'll probably open up like the $50 level first, and then they'll open up like the $35, $40 level, whatever it is. And then they may even do. Last time they did lotteries for like 2 months. You had to they capped the number of value submissions that they would accept. Like they actually ran like a lottery system drop where you submitted and they had X number of slots to submit at value tier with a minimum of like 20 or 25 cards or whatever. And if you got pulled, then you could submit. Like, so they had a full approach. And I mean, you could have said the same thing about last time when this happened during the pandemic, and they didn't immediately get swamped. So like they had a plan for it back then. I assume they would just re-execute that plan. Things are a little different today, but they're also able to grade way more cards today than they were in 2022.
I just wanted to say, like, the funny thing to me about this, because like when Mickey, when you brought up the the different submissions they're still allowing, has been a post or a video recently from Alpha Investments where he was talking about this like, oh, this big backlog and the shutdown and everything. He's like, but we're still going to let you send in cards if you're willing to pay us enough money. So it's like it gives a weird vibe, where it's like, yeah, we're shut down, but you can pay enough to jump that line, and then the shutdown piece will still continue longer. I mean, it's.
Well, I want to touch on that a little bit. Derek had a good comment in the chat where he kind of brought up the fact that if they knew they're going to do such a long shutdown, why did they give people such little warning? And then Rob, like the tinfoil hats, at least the sentiment that I feel is that like, oh, look at PSA purposely shutting down so that they could get an influx of submissions, 4D chess level play right here. Can you talk a little bit about like, what is the idea here of that tinfoil hat and kind of what Ryan was saying? Like, is this just their way of, like, I know you talked about this in your video, like, oh, they'll just eliminate value tier and this is the new norm now, $80 per card.
A couple of things. I think they underestimated the amount of cards they were going to get. I think if they could do it over again, they would probably have a shorter window to just give like maybe a 48-hour notice. Part of the reason they gave a window is because in February they did a price increase and they gave nobody advanced notice. They didn't tell anybody. It just rolled out in the middle of the night, and then all of a sudden it was there at 9 a.m. on like a Tuesday morning. That's when I had Ryan on the channel to talk about it. That was the first time 99.9% of people heard about it. And that caught a lot of people off guard, including group submitters, where group submitters had, say, thousands of cards on their desk that they were in the middle of doing submissions for people. And then all of a sudden the price instantly changed on them and they got kind of caught in the middle. And I don't think they were real happy with that. So this time around, they told the group submitters ahead of time, like a couple days ahead, like, hey, FYI, we're going to be doing this. And that's why it leaked, is because people started talking. The more people that know, the more likely it is to leak. So it started leaking. It started building up that gap again. But I think they felt like they needed to give the group submitters at least a little bit of a heads up so they weren't completely caught off guard and stuck holding a bunch of people's cards in their hand that they couldn't submit because value just magically shut down overnight. So I think what they should have done is give like a 48-hour window instead of like a 5-day window, just to give people enough time to get the cards off their desk that they have and not have people spending a weekend running around trying to get their hands on every single card that they could get to blindly send in. One of the things I speculated in my video is I guarantee you the grades on these orders are not going to be great, because I guarantee you people were sending stuff that they probably were like, well, this is probably a 9, but I'm just sending it anyway just to get stuff in the door. I bet those grades are just going to be absolutely brutal. And the whole thing on the value tier never coming back is just like a complete nonsense take, because if they expand out the capability, let's say they could grade 3 million cards per month, they could grade 2 million cards per month now. Like you want 3 million cards through the door to grade, and you're not going to get 3 million cards at $80 a piece. Like, it's just, they need to feed the beast, is what I said in the video. So you have to have cards coming through the door. Like, it sounds good for the tinfoil, but it's just not, it doesn't make business sense at all. Like, they want a bunch of cards coming through their door. They have to feed their GameStop power packs. They have to feed the PSA offers program. They want to feed eBay. They want to feed the PSA vault. They want to feed their group submitters. Like, they want as many cards as possible in a PSA label. That's how they got to where they are.
I'm going to hop back in. I agree with Neo. I think the idea that this is 4D chess, as you put it, to eliminate the lower tiers, I just don't think that's the case. And I think Neo makes those are the points, right? They definitely want to have millions of cards coming in, and at $80 a card, they might not have that level of submission. And then the thoughts that I was mentioning earlier about being discouraged about submitting, I want to connect those back to those thoughts developed for me. I remember now, not when the services were shut down, because services being shut down doesn't mean submit them and you'll get them eventually. Those services are shut down. That was when the turnaround times had previously increased by a lot, right? So that's when the discouraging sort of sentiment hit for me. But along the lines of what Ryan just said a few minutes ago about, we're shut down, but if you pay enough, we'll still grade some cards. Now, I understand why Ryan said what he said, but I'm fine with this. Meaning, now, again, personal perspective as a collector, submitter, grader, seller, I'm looking at what's available right now, and I'm looking at a 40 to 50 day business day turnaround at $80 a card. That's, even for me, a tough pill to swallow, because 40 to 50 business days, that's over 2 months. It's a bit extended, but it's not terrible, and that's at a max value of $1,500. And then at the $149 level, which is where I submitted some cards, I see a max insured value of $2,500 and a 20 to 30 business day turnaround time. That can still keep me excited. And an example, what's up, Derek? And an example of that, of a card that I would submit, I'm not shilling this card, but I'm just giving an example of how that works for me, is that it's $150 and $2,500 value. If I buy a collection, or I have this card in my collection and I'm into the card $50, $60, I'm going to pay that to get that back. And a perfect example of that executed in my previous submission, when that turnaround time was lower, was, these cards that I'm quite obsessed with, the 66 honors. This card came back a PSA 4, but a PSA 4 last sold for $3K. So and I didn't buy the card for $2,700 and then submit it. You buy these cards raw, or you buy complete sets for, $1,500 winning where you can. You pull that card out, you raw, and you submit it. That makes sense. Like, I am still enthusiastic about that, excited about that, happy that that tier exists at that price, even with that turnaround time of roughly a month in business days. It's still enough to keep me excited, looking for those sorts of cards with those sorts of margins, and continue, playing the grading game and participating in. So although I understand what Ryan says, I am an example of someone that is happy that exists and still will be participating and just waiting for lower submission tiers to open, and then I'll play that game as well. So I like that they still exist, but I understand the sentiment, and I do agree that they are definitely not going to eliminate the lower tiers when they do start to open them back up.
I've never thought they were going to eliminate the lower tiers. My point.
No,
was
not
just
you,
about,
not you. Someone else said that. That wasn't about. Yeah.
My point was
said
just
it as
about the
a-
whole idea of that it's a straight. I don't know. It's kind of a strange look where, when it's like we're super backed up. Now, it would be interesting if they gave metrics on, like, this is how many cards are backed up in this tier versus this tier versus this tier. Then people might realize it's like, oh, at $80, there's only 100,000 cards in there. At $350, there's only 5,000 cards, something like that. And it's like, these are nothing compared to the millions of cards that are in the value tier.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it is. And so it's like, it really doesn't have any legitimate impact on this, but that would be some way where you could at least, like, let people know why that decision is made and why it's not really that big of a deal to keep these things open. But I mean, ultimately it's their company. They can do what they want. So it's like, I mean, it doesn't matter that much.
And I would throw. I'm the one that said, or are they going to eliminate the value tier forever? But
Oh,
I'm
that
just
was
sort of,
you trying to stir that
it was
pot
me.
swag? Oh, God.
I'm wearing the tinfoil hat right here.
Oh,
No,
gosh.
I'm sharing what the sentiment that I feel within the
Okay.
community. I don't think
Okay.
that they would do that either. I'm just bringing it up for the conversation, as I am also doing this, where, Manu, you're the big PSA shill, so you're willing to wait until that tier opens. But Rob, a lot of the other conversation has been like, oh, this is it. CGC to the moon, Beckett to the moon, Tag to the moon. Are the other grading companies going to have a field day here at their low tier? Is this a chance for them to close the gap? What do you think?
No, because they're already buried in the night that PSA announced the value tier shutting down. Tag announced that their cheapest service tier available was $150 per card, and CGC drastically extended their turnaround times.
Yeah,
Can
I
just
have
say something?
CGCs
Wait.
pulled up right now, and they're at 6 months. For value tier.
Okay, CGC, I believe, but listen, I don't know. Sorry to the 3 Tag fans that are watching us right now, but I feel like when Tag was like, "Oh, we got flooded," is that just PR? Is that marketing?
They've been, according to, they had value tiers shut down prior to this PSA announcement. They shut them down shortly after maybe it was, I don't know if it was after the price increase or after they went to 50 card minimum for submissions. Tag shut down their lower tiers, but they still had I forget what it was, like a 70, I think it was like $70 or $75 per card open. And then literally the night all the rumors PSA hit, in the middle of the night, they're like, that's close to $150 to grade a card with us. So SGC is already all backed up, and Beckett is running pretty slow as well. I don't have a good feel for their turnaround times, but they did jump their output quite a bit. They've expanded their team slightly, and according to their GM, brought in some new grading efficiencies. So their max output is higher than it used to be. They could do like 150K cards per month now. But they will most likely get buried too.
Hey,
The way that I understand it, CGC was already falling behind before this announcement, and this is not going to help that. And once again, we could go back to 2021. We saw how this played out. 2021, PSA shut down. The other grading companies were not in a place to be able to capture that business. They immediately got buried, and they got buried worse because, as much as we all want to bitch about PSA, they can scale way faster because they have a much bigger team and way more money at their disposal. And what happened was a lot of the other grading companies got completely buried. Took SGC like a year and a half to dig out of their backlog from the PSA shutdown. Like it was a mess for them. They eventually rebounded from it because Peter was such a good face of the company, but really hurt them a lot how long that they were backed up for SGC because of the PSA fallout. And that's probably going to happen again. All these other smaller grading companies, the big 4 and even the smaller ones, are going to get completely slammed. And then PSA is going to be slammed. PSA is probably going to clear it faster. And then they come out the other side being able to grade cheaper and faster than everybody else for a short window of time. And then guess what? Everyone will run right back to PSA as soon as it's more affordable again, regardless of what they say in a comment section.
Yeah. And I mean, theoretically, because I see some comments about Tag in the chat, like theoretically Tag should be able to scale faster. I imagine they still would have a limit on the, whatever the machinery is for actually like processing the slabbing of the cards. I know for CGC on the comic side, that was always a big limiter. Like, it's like that equipment is not cheap. It's not quick to get. It's very custom, and so that could be something that really holds that back. It may not be the actual like grader.
It's actually a people problem for them.
For PSA, I would think it's a people problem.
Tag.
I don't know for Tag though.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, I guess. Well, then you got to answer the question. Then you can't just say it. What's the reason why?
I mean, I think that there are more humans involved with that process than people realize.
Yeah, I know that they have their checks. They talked about that with that. I don't know if we're going to talk about that in this video. The what was it? The perfect card that got graded.
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh, but we need to have a person look at this. And it's like, What is the point of this? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
people have to review everything that's graded by the machines. So there's a bottleneck. There's still a people bottleneck. I don't
Yeah,
know. That's why I side eye everything that they do, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, as Derek said in the chat, it definitely kind of undermines their value prop. But Manu, I didn't know if you had something to jump in on this.
Yeah, a little. I mean, I just wanted to ask Neo. This is related to tag. I don't talk tag. I don't talk tag much. That's hard to say. I never really have, but every now and then, someone does DM me and say, "Hey, what do you think about tag? What do you think about tag?" And I have very surface level thoughts on it because I've never engaged with the tag slab or anything. Look, I like the look of it. When you see that tag slab with the sort of simple label that looks like etched, sort of like a white etched sort of engraving for the information and the details, and then it's pretty clear. But I want to speak to Neo and Ryan, or even you, Swag. Have you guys handled a tag slab? Does it feel good? Do you like having it? And then second to that, oh, Neo's about to grab one. I love this. I remember some things about. I remember some conversations about the security of a tag slab. Again, no personal experience, didn't investigate. Want to know more about that. And what are the values? I imagine they don't perform as high as some of the other grading companies. Only imagining, not hating. That seems like a reasonable thought for me to be having. But what are some of the values? If a PSA 10 of a card is $1,000, what does it bring in as a tag card? Neo, do you have any information on that? Because I'm curious to know.
TCG, they're okay. In sports, they're dog shit.
Well, there's that, guys.
So here's my biggest problem. I do have a tag slab because I bought a one-piece card and a tag slab. Here's the biggest problem. How's that label look like? Like that, as long as there's something dark behind it, it looks okay. But if it's on,
that's always the big complaint I hear.
Right? It's impossible to read.
Yeah, but it does look good though.
They're basically a CGC slab.
They do look like the shape and
They're
everything, and even the label height looks like a CGC slab.
Yeah, they're very, like the clarity and the feel in hand is very similar to us. They're not exactly a CGC slab, but they are very similar to. That's what I would comp them to. If you've held a CGC slab, it's very similar to a tag slab.
Yeah, I have some CGC slabs. Yeah.
Their biggest problem is sports people don't take them seriously at all because they can't grade anything prior to 1989. And if you can't grade a 86 Fleer Jordan, no one's going to take you seriously in sports.
Well, that seems like a huge problem for a company that's going to be a grader. Like if you can't,
and they don't even focus on sports. I mean, if you pull up the gem rate data and look, they grade 50,000 cards a month, and like 2,000 to 3,000 of it is sports cards. The rest is TCG. Like they have fully pivoted away from sports. I think my guess, and I do not know this for sure, this is pure speculation on my part, is whatever tech that they're using, I think personally probably has problems catching fakes of the older style cards that are just printed on basically like plain paper or like that plain cardboard stock that is not unique. It's very, you know what I mean? I feel like that their system probably has problems catching counterfeits with that. And that's probably the biggest reason that they don't do it. Because I don't know otherwise why you wouldn't.
Where is tag located?
California.
They're here, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know where exactly, but I believe they're in California. So yeah, sports guys just don't take them seriously because if you can't grade vintage, then what are you even doing? Like they don't. And then TCG, the thing with TCG is, and why I think they've pivoted to it so heavily, is you don't have the same complexities as you do on sports cards. Like there's no parallels for the most part. Like it's just a Pikachu SIR is a Pikachu SIR. They're all exactly the same card. You don't have a Pikachu out of 5, out of 50, out of 100 as a, this parallel, that parallel, that parallel, that parallel. Like whatever the card is, that's the card. So I have to imagine, and I'm no AI expert, but from a tech standpoint, it's probably way easier for the model to learn the card when it's exactly the same card over and over again.
Right.
And that's always been my other thing with that is like they talk about like, it gets smarter, it gets better, or maybe they're going to update it one day or something like that. Like folks will say that. And if that's the case, then doesn't that invalidate all the previous grades?
That's always one of my big concerns with this is that, like, yeah, they talk about it getting better, but I mean, granted, you could talk about that. You could say that the same thing with PSA, like how people are like, oh, I don't want cards with certain numbers older than this because they've gotten more strict. And, so, I mean, you could argue, you could make a similar argument, but It's just more in your face. I feel like with like
Yeah.
machine learning, where it's actually like actively changing.
Especially
But-
tag
but
two,
to
because
that
they
point-
rank the cards. Like if you get the 1,000 point, if you pay extra and get the 1,000 point scale, they show you on their pop report where your card ranks compared to other cards of the same grade. So if the
I did
grading
not
scale
realize-
drastically changed,
But you have to pay extra for that.
You
though.
do. It's
So,
very
so not
expensive.
every card gets
Correct.
that type of grading.
correct. But that was one thing that pissed people off, like their loyal supporters early on. People love the 1,000 point scale. And then once again, the human element took too much time for it. So they scaled back on it, had to charge a huge premium. And a lot of people that were early adopters were pissed because they're like, oh, no, I thought that was the whole point, was the 1,000 point scale. And we're going to get super detailed. And they're like, well, you see, that takes us a little too much time because we probably have to have people look at it a lot longer. So
that's what surprised me,
theory.
is that I thought that the whole point was that they were all going to be that 1,000-point scale, you know, and then it was only, I don't know what it was, like maybe 6 months ago or something, I learned that, oh, that's something extra you pay for. Now, maybe it wasn't at the beginning.
It was,
And-
I think
okay.
it had a little bit of a premium, but nowhere, it has a huge premium now.
Okay.
Well, so that's interesting though. I actually did not realize that they had that scale. That to me seems like one of those, cool idea, probably hard to actually make happen. But Ryan, to what you're saying is like, I understand what you mean. Like you could make the argument that, PSA tweaks their grading, so like old stuff is invalidated anyways. But the whole value prop that Tag is saying is that, oh, our grades are accurate. Like PSA and CGC and stuff, we've had so many of these conversations, like, clever use of language. They're not actually saying that they have this like scientific perfect thing. They're saying it's more of an art. So they have the verbal language to kind of like get out of it. So I don't know, like the tag thing is interesting. It kind of just feels like at some point PSA will probably buy them out, like they buy out everybody else. And if there's any value to their algorithm, maybe they'll incorporate it one day when we actually do have AI grading. But kind of bringing it back to,
I have a question for you, Swag.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and throw yours, and then I have a transition question.
I was going to just sort of bring it back to like the kind of the main topic and wrap it on that. You throw me the question first.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, my and I don't pay attention to this very often because I don't grade a lot of comics. I just assume since card grading is booming that comic book grading must be super backed up too, right?
It's definitely
Wah, wah.
comics could never, as is going to be our other T-shirt that we one day make for our channel. But before I pick up that nice little segue that you had and transition it over, kind of maybe just last little thoughts to close out this topic. Rob, I'll look to you on this one. I mean, what's going to happen 6 months from now, 9 months from now? PSA is going to shut down. Are there any second and third order effects that are actually going to manifest in this shutdown period?
The biggest one will be artificially low population counts on any product that releases during the shutdown. That to me is the biggest thing to keep an eye out for. So like and this goes across the board, sports, TCG, Marvel, Pokemon, One, whatever, doesn't matter what it is. Any product that releases basically from today until they end up reopening. So let's just call it 6 months. So over the next 6 months, any new product that releases, the population counts on most of those cards are going to be artificially low. And then once they reopen, fast forward another 3 months. So let's say spring of 2027. Basically, any card that releases between now and then, if someone puts low pop in a eBay listing, it's.
I mean, think about that. That could be a business opportunity. Now you've got like Pokemon cards, like some of the ones like maybe just like an SIR or whatever that's not normally a high, like the real big chase, but you're like, oh, there's only 10 tens on the pop report, it's super rare card. And so I could see people trying to play that game over the next 6 months, 8 months.
Oh, people absolutely will. They will, we kind of talked about it earlier. Like people are going to send in cards at that $80 level that under normal circumstances would not make sense to send at that level, but they'll get one of the few in a PSA 10 potentially, and it'll sell for a large sum of money. If you get a 9, you're going to get killed.
That's
It's
a really
dangerous
smart
game to play, but you could play it.
That was some really sharp and smart insight there, Neil. I think that's valuable information. The artificially low in the short term pop counts for popular cards. That's a good point to be considering.
Especially
People
lower
will,
value.
people will still overpay for them. It doesn't
100%.
matter.
100%.
It's still gonna happen. Like you could scream it from the rooftop, and it's like
Yeah,
it's not
100%.
gonna
But
matter.
people will absolutely send in $10 and $20 cards at the $80 level to try to get a PSA 10 in sports and Pokemon. And it will, if it gets a 10, you probably will do pretty okay on it. But if it gets a 9, you're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, great insights like that is why people like David Schneider become new YouTube channel members. I believe that is over on either Neo's or Rob's channel. So shout out to you guys for doing that. And then also shout out to Mr. Mom 4611 for the 199 that says suggesting a short question segment at the end.
News
Yeah,
Minute. Or
we can
that
have
could
News
also be
Minute.
sponsored by Blue Chew.
that would be the 1 minute questions. The 1 minute questions.
Yeah.
Well, let me
Oh,
not
man.
waste a great segue opportunity that Neo set me up with. You know, PSA it has their doors shut down for trading cards for many, many months, but comics could never. As just over a couple weeks from now, we have Heroes Con, where CGC is doing on-site grading, which if you guys don't know, on-site grading.
Not a couple weeks.
Well, you know, sometimes we, mess up things and I have brain farts. I apologize. A couple days from now, we have Heroes Con where CGC is going to be doing on-site grading, which if you guys don't know is them literally grading your comic book, Johnny on the spot, and having it ready in the slab later that day. It comes with a premium price where, to put it into perspective, if you have a modern book, you got your Absolute Batman, it's going to cost you $55, where if you sent it in regular, it would cost you $27. Currently, turnaround times are 45. I thought that this was interesting, because the on-site grading is instantaneous, but at the same time, it comes with a higher premium, like this high value is 130. But then I noticed that high value for CGC right now, turnaround times 10 days. Now, in the pre-show, to me, I was a little surprised by that the turnaround times were 10 days so fast. I guess, Ryan, like 10 days is kind of normal for high value, but maybe
Yeah,
just
I felt like
more
that was
broadly in the
normal, but
yeah. Okay. Well, maybe more broadly in the conversation, I do think that it's interesting that, the comics could never conversation, it feels like always pops up where like, I feel like there's maybe not a lot of submissions going on at CGC with maybe the unlimited value, the high value tier where these turnaround times are as such. But I don't know, what's your kind of sense with turnaround times these days with CGC? What's your sense with on-site grading as it stands here and the premium that you pay? Is it worth it?
I mean, you're saving shipping costs, right? So and that's expensive now. Like people have been complaining a lot about that because they just we know like shipping in general has gotten more expensive, and so there is some value there. You're definitely paying a premium. I would say that the biggest challenge is you've got to have the books ready, like pressed and everything in hand at that point, versus sending them through a presser, or if you're going to use CCS or whatever else. So to me, that's always the biggest challenge for something like on-site grading, is that I don't press my own books. I don't keep a stack of books, with me that are ready to press. So the only, or that are ready and already pressed. So the only way that would ever really work for me is if I had books that I wasn't planning on having pressed and cleaned first, that I felt like it wouldn't help them to bring in. So that's always the kind of the downside for me for something like that. But it seems like they usually get pretty slammed. And for the on-site grading, there have been a number of times I've heard where they don't actually finish everything, and it ends up having to go with them back to CGC to finish the grading. So it doesn't, if you want to do it, you want to drop them off early, basically, is how I would put it.
Have these always been the relationships between the fees and the values that are maxed in that tier? Because when I just look at this on the surface, here it's 130 because it's on site, but to ship it in, it was 105, and the max value being 1,000. That just doesn't feel great to me. Like I want $105 for a max value of 1,000. Just doesn't seem like a fair correlation. Did I miss this all the time? Am I just now feeling weird about that? It seems too expensive to grade.
No, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's basically 10%. That's why the funny thing is the tier that people complain about the most, Unlimited, in terms of percentage, is actually the best value for getting your books
4%.
graded, because it's 3.2 or whatever when you have a like an actual like account with them.
Yeah.
So the reality is that it is expensive. And that's why, like, to me, like, you really do have to think about if it's worth it to send in those lower dollar books, because you're eating a big percentage of value for, in the grading, pressing, cleaning, shipping, and everything alone. Like, once that's all said and done, you're probably putting 15 to 20% into the value of the book. Now, you also have to remember that unless you're submitting something that is super, super well known, like, they are not spot checking, or they're not like in detail checking every single book and looking them up on GPA. It's not like PSA. Like, PSA seems to like check everything, and they will upcharge you all the time. Now, maybe CGC will end up doing that eventually, but they, unless you're sending in like Hulk 181 or Giant Size X-Men 1 or ASM 129, like these well-known keys that, they spot and they're like, oh, that's a high value book. That's a high value book. Like, you're probably not going to get really capped by that $1,000 mark or the $400 mark, for that matter. I wouldn't be surprised if you could easily submit $800 or $1,000 books in the vintage tier.
People
And
do it
as
all
long
the
as,
time.
as long as it's not like a major key, it'll get through.
Yeah, but that's just so interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we had that conversation. As long as they don't catch it, you could send a couple of things and get some value out of that grading cost. But yeah, if you're trying to stick to the rules, man, you better be buying really smart before you put pressing, grading, shipping all into a book that maxes out at $1,000.
I mean, my other argument there, though, is if you're no, I don't know, it's gone. The argument is gone.
Let me throw some things you can remember. I mean, it is interesting that you brought that up into, because like, I feel like in the conversations that, we've had where, let's say, CGC did raise their prices, and then, we all made videos about it, or some of us did, and we talked about it. That was one of the talking points that I kind of remember throwing out, where it was like, all of a sudden you're at 10% to submit $1,000 book. Like, that doesn't seem like worth it in a lot of situations, especially when you're at these awkward breakpoints. And that's one of the things that I've kind of always felt like, to me, the $400 price point for vintage seems like, if you just kind of at a glance think about like all the Silver Age type books that are of that price point, like it's like, I feel like that value tier should be a little bit higher, or something like that, because it should go up to maybe like a $700 book, because there's so many books actually that sit between $400 and $1,000. And those are the ones that are kind of like these low mid-grade, Silver Age type books. And I just felt like the breakpoints are so clunky now, whereas before maybe they made more sense when the values, during 2021 were better. And now you're kind of in this awkward space, and kind of like what Ryan was saying, like, you kind of have to play this like weird game that everyone kind of, turns the other cheek, where it's like, I have $1,000 book, but I'm going to submit it to the vintage tier for $400 value. And I don't know, like, it probably will be fine. Hopefully it doesn't need to get an insurance claim on it. It'll come back fine. And so now everyone's kind of doing that. And it's just like I don't know, it's awkward. It's just something that I feel like, maybe it has to do with the way that their insurance works, where, whatever deal they have, $400 has to be that price point. But I've always felt like that value should be increased.
Well, and it was what I was thinking of was what the Money Mastery Hub said on there, where it said, basically, I would tend to submit on the lower value tier. It's related to that lower value tier, partly because if you miss something, you're not getting your money back. It's like you send it in, it ends up there's restoration on it, or you missed a coupon cutout or whatever. It's like, well, you're still paying the high value tier for it, even though the book you just got back is worth like $200. And so like that kind of stuff can really sting you as well.
Now the interesting thing here, and allow me a little bit of setup here, because I want to tinfoil hat this with you guys for a bit. Now there's it's always been, talks within the trade for many years about like, well, if you submit to the high value, and I have a book that, is maybe not worth $1,000, but I'm kind of insisting to the grader that, hey, this is a better book. Meaning, like, sometimes there's those Silver Age, Bronze Age books where in 9.6 it's $400, but in 9.8 it's $2,000. So if I submit it to the high value, I'm kind of like implying to this grader that, hey, I know that it's a 9.8. So, hit me with that 9.8. And that's kind of an interesting thing. And before I let you guys jump back in, with the on-site grading thing, I've heard, and this is anecdotal, I've heard that in the chaos of the con, when they're just trying to get books done, they're maybe a little more lenient, or they're not as like, examining every corner and making sure it's perfectly square and all that sort of stuff. So that's always been the people have always thrown out that, like, oh, on-site grading is worth it because you're going to get a gift grade if you're in that environment. Anyways, what do you guys think about any of those little tinfoil hat things?
Does that also mean that handling might be sloppier as well?
Potentially, but once you get the number, you get the number, right? Who cares if they
Who
drop
cares,
it?
right? Yeah.
You buy the slab.
Buy the grade. Buy the grade.
So before the guys hop in on this, I want to say, so do we know, or are we assuming that graders know the tier that the book was submitted in?
Well, they know the tier because they work in that tier.
Okay, so that was the other one. So the tiers have separate graders.
Because it's based on experience. Yeah, I mean, at least my understanding is it's based on experience. Like, you're not having a new person grading high value or unlimited. I mean,
Unlimited maybe, but like from vintage to high value, $400 insured to $1,000 insured, does it really require a different set level, skill set?
I mean, I don't work for CGC, so I can't say, but I imagine it is still probably some type of tiered system. And maybe it's even like I don't know, maybe you get paid more on, the higher value books that you work on, or, whatever, maybe because you have more experience and that kind of thing. But, I mean, my experience has been, I don't like submitting unlimited value because I always feel like they get graded harder. Like,
yeah, you feel like you're getting like
I always feel like I'm getting hammered on unlimited, and so it's like, I try to avoid unlimited tier if I can. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel this. I feel the same about vintage. I feel like every time I've submitted to vintage, I've been absolutely decimated.
Well, was that your FF 112? Was it vintage?
Yeah. That I submitted
that's like a 9 to a 9.8 on a recent.
Yeah. I got a 9.0 when I submitted to vintage, and then the next time I submitted it high value because I was like, no, we're going in high value with this, and I got a 9.8 out of it. I mean, granted, it got repressed. Maybe the pressing the first time wasn't enough, but I don't know. That's been my experience. But
I'll jump in. I'll be the one guy to jump in and say that I do enjoy submitting unlimited value. I've had good submissions. I've had not so great ones, but generally speaking, it has worked out well for me. But yeah, there have been some that I'm like, man, I wonder if I got a grader that's really, really focusing on the details because he or she is the most experienced, most sophisticated in the ways of grading and flaws, and maybe that isn't to my advantage. But generally speaking, for the most part, I submit unlimited value, and I've done fine with it. But I hear what you guys are saying.
Here's my speculation I have no idea. This is pure tinfoil hat speculation of the people that are working on the vintage tier. It's like you come in as a CGC grader, they start you in the modern, you're just looking at absolute Batman all days. One day you get that promotion, they send you up to vintage, and it's like, oh, this is your big shot, this is your big chance to make it. But because you have to really work hard and you're still grinding, as opposed to like the senior graders who are just living it up with all that comic book money. That vintage grader, he's in there and he's like examining every little detail, and he's being super, super hard because, he can't be, giving away these free 9.8s. He's got to be, making sure that like his boss is not like, hey, Paul, why are you giving away so many 9.8s? So I just kind of
want the vintage grader that's long in the tooth. You don't want the new vintage grader.
I think so. That's my theory. I think you want the guy who is like, he's been doing it for years. He's rooting for you. He's got no problem giving you a 9.8. He's like, fuck it. Just take a 9.8. Who cares?
Happy Hour Comics says, I understand. Happy Hour Comics says, I submitted a UF4 and UF4, which is interesting because yes, I submitted but I want to say I submitted a UF4 unlimited value with the major golden age key. Hopefully get that 9.9. I just want to say, Happy Hour Comics, I hope you do get the UF4 9.9. And it would be the second one, to my understanding. And if you do get it, tag me, share it with us. We want to know. But if it looks like a 9.9, I hope you get that 9.9. That's a major book.
Absolutely. We will definitely talk more 9.9s later on.
One quick note about Heroes Con. PSA was not allowed to set up at Heroes Con.
Ooh.
You
Let's
mean
talk
even
more about
even
that.
for
The not
comics?
allowed.
Well,
CGC exclusive event.
Ah, that's okay. Yes. Okay.
Very, very interesting. Thank you for the assist on that one, Rob, because the next little thing I want to share with you guys is, here we are, CGC, still taking pop shots at the other guys, quote unquote. We got some case rattling videos that they're posting up right there, taking pop shots at PSA. Now they're banning them from, apparently Heroes Con here. And, we're looking at PSA's turnaround times, actually a little bit slower than that of CGC, but I don't know, kind of interesting, right? CGC still looking over its shoulder. What do you guys make of CGC doing these kind of funny videos about the other guys?
Well, the shaking case thing was weird to me because it's like, to me, that's like, I hate that the CGC case, like they do like the inner well moves inside of there like most of the time, and it's super obnoxious. Like, it's not a good thing to even bring any attention to it, even though it was like a joke and they were playing music, like different music with them. But I was just like, like, you shouldn't be shaking those cases regardless, and they shouldn't be moving around like that. I don't know when that started. It's just, I know it happens a lot more now than it used to.
Yeah. I don't know. Interesting stuff. Them doing their little videos about PSA, and I have to imagine. I think that CGC has a deal with a bunch of cons. I think that might have also been the treatment that CBCS got at certain times. So interesting that PSA not allowed to set up there, but they will be at.
I know for a fact 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, at least one of the ones, the Heroes Cons that I attended, CBCS was 1000% there, because I distinctively remember like vlogging, like, here's the line for CBCS. And it was like a folding table with a cloth with like one guy behind it and then like one sad person waiting in line. And then I like panned over to the CGC line that's like a mile long.
Yeah.
Which, spoilers, CBCS also won't be at Heroes Con.
Yeah. You sure about that, Neo? I was really looking forward to them.
I will say, just as a side note too, if you're planning on doing the on-site grading with CGC at Heroes Con, you're gonna want to get your stuff in early. 2 years ago when I was there, I remember that getting cut off quite early to get stuff back during the con. Like, they ran out of submissions basically.
Yeah. You don't want to get your submission at Heroes Con shut down. You don't want to be like CBCS that also got shut down, as you pointed out. Nor do you want to be graded scripts, because CGC came and went with their grading script, vertical. We don't need to spend a ton of time on this story, but it was one of the stories that popped up in our absence of our show. Of course, we've been talking a lot about manga. We've been talking about the speculation of graded scripts. CGC started to do it. Some people were getting all excited about it, and then they were like, this is too hard. So they're shutting their doors. What do you guys think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the reality is if they were having trouble with it, they probably shouldn't have been grading them in the first place. Like, to me, if you need outside references, and that's kind of what it comes across as, is people are like the people that have talked about it, they're like, oh, we had all this work, we made sure that we have all these other things, like, just like with any like COA or whatever, like, you're not sending that to CGC and they're taking that in, like, or they shouldn't be. It should be able to be validated on its own. And if you have to count on someone else's work to make sure that the thing is valid, or legitimate, you shouldn't be grading it. Like, because then it's your name on it, and then it's your fault if it's fake. The problem is, though, is that they have that announcement, that thing that they added in where they're like, oh, but we're still say that, or they didn't say they were authentic. They said our authenticity guarantee still applies to the already graded scripts. That is a very specific wording. That is not saying they are authentic. They are saying they are covered by the authenticity guarantee. But if somebody cracks it out, like, who's authenticating it? Like, the only person that could actually do that and crack it out and say it's still good is CGC, but CGC said they can't validate them. It's real weird speak to me on this whole like script grading thing, because like, I mean, I've said I wouldn't touch them. Like, if I was somebody out there, like, I would not touch them, because now there's just big question marks with them. And I don't care what history or background someone has with it. Because I mean, like when you had those fake Pokemon cards that got graded, those supposedly had, you know, somebody behind the scenes saying that these things were great, and they ended up all being fake. So it's like, I don't trust anything that they can't authenticate themselves. And if they're basically saying they couldn't authenticate these themselves, you should not be trusting whatever's in that slab.
Did you guys have other thoughts on this? I mean, I certainly have a few, but I want to let you guys
I didn't
jump
even
in.
know that this was a thing.
I just thought this was funny. I just got kind of a chuckle out of it because I like scripts. I thought it was cool to have them authenticated, graded, whatever. There's just other elements surrounding this that just made me laugh. And then, you know, some of the posts that were made to continue to instill the confidence in the already graded ones and kind of like the economy of manga that currently exists was just amusing on a I don't want to, you know, it's just amusing to me. That's all it was. It's funny. And Beckett is, of course, this doesn't have to do with the scripts, but the scripts really wouldn't have become an enthusiastic prospect for grading if the manga hadn't blown up. And Beckett is still going strong, from my understanding, grading manga, and Beckett's owned by PSA. So that is just also fun to me. Like, it feels like a little competition in manga, and it feels like CGC had to be like, all right, well, I guess we can't have fun here, and you guys have already picked Beckett as your leader, and there's that.
I don't know if anybody's talked about this, but if you look at CGC's like we're hiring section, they are looking for manga graders.
Okay.
So
They are. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so I mean that kind of tells you like they see the value in it, and they're going to potentially start going that way.
Well, let me ask you this. This is interesting then, because Beckett obviously is doing really well, and the Beckett manga slab looks really good. The label looks good, and collectors are enjoying it, and big money's being spent on it. CGC, with their history, with their sort of existing market of fans and a consumer base, if they do get into grading manga and these thicker, larger CGC slabs holding manga with the pre-existing CGC label come out, do you think they have a really strong shot at overtaking Beckett? Do people switch, or does this stay Beckett's thing and CGC gets a piece? Like, just playing this out, what do you think would happen if CGC entered that market?
I think they have a much better chance than like CGC overtaking PSA in cards or PSA overtaking CGC in comics, because it's still small. Like, it's still not a big number. So if you have, like, if they dedicate a bunch of money to it, I feel like they could catch and pass. Whereas these other ones with the cards and comics, like each of those groups, like PSA and CGC respectively, are so much above the next closest that you're never going to catch them. But this one, it's so new. I feel like if people did decide that they liked the CGC case, and maybe they won't, maybe they decide they like Beckett, but if they do, and CGC can ramp up the volume that they can handle, I could see that becoming the default option.
Okay. I like what Derek says.
I generally agree with that, but I will also say, I mean, they're starting this race already way behind. I mean, just the fact that there's been the Logan Paul sale and how many people now associate like the manga with the Beckett slab, I think that's a big deal. Like, I mean, say what you will about Logan Paul, but just like the brand awareness for Beckett with it. And it's still, and it's like maybe the similar comparison once again is with the video game world, where like I still feel like WATA/PSA and VGA are still considered more the premier video game grader than CGC, who is like, dabbling into graded video games. And I think that has to do with the fact that they're just like we're first to market, even though it was like only a couple years prior, but the hype helped them a lot. But yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, CGC will definitely do it. I'm sure they could be profitable. They don't have to be the number one, manga grader. But I will say that there is a manga influencer who, God, I feel bad because we've talked on Instagram and stuff, but he's been with the guy who does the books, the older guy who's got like the big library. He's got a bunch of photos with him doing the manga. He does have in his bio that he is like the CGC manga person.
I know who you're talking about. He moved to Japan to be the CGC manga person.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's related to the position that they're trying to fill, but CGC does have, in theory, employees or people associated with their company that they're trying to build out that team. So we'll have to see. I mean, I have to imagine that within a year or so, they would want to get that program rolling.
He
So
took that
I
position a
imagine
while
the
ago too.
he did.
I was gonna say, I imagine the thing that's probably holding it up the most is the cases, because I originally thought that they would be able to leverage the pulp cases, but I don't know where Mickey just went. But I originally thought they'd be able to leverage the pulp cases, but because I don't read manga, I only watch anime. I don't read manga. But then like seeing the side, like those phone books that they've got in those cases, I was like, oh yeah. No, the pulp cases are not big enough. They need to have something completely different to handle those like behemoths. So yeah, I imagine that's probably one of the biggest challenges right now is building out whatever, if assuming they're going to, but building out the equipment and everything to be able to actually slab the manga itself.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about manga later on, but to kind of put a bow on this little story right here, I think, as you were saying, Ryan, why they're doing their little corporate language and stuff. It's like, we know why. They just realized there's no way we can actually stand by our authentication, but we got to save face. We got to say that the ones that we graded are still, valuable. And, we kind of made some jokes about, maybe there was certain phone calls that were being made, to ensure that they came out with that messaging. But, it's a little bit of corporate speak. Once you're a corporation, you got to, protect the corporation and the business at all costs, which leads us to our next major story we got to talk about. But guys, I don't know if you've been on the internet in the last week or so, but this is maybe the greatest collectible story that exists ever. Shout out to Reckless Ben, who came out just a couple weeks ago with a video where he was investigating a Lego collection worth $200,000 that was assigned to Bricks and Minifigs to do consignment, but ended up being that Bricks and Minifigs allegedly stole this collection. The story kind of goes into this crazy world of Lego collectible selling / stealing property from the corporation stealing like the little guy's property, to business takeovers, to lawsuits, to police corruption. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. It's an incredible story. Suffice to say, the entire internet has rallied around the original owner of this Lego collection and Reckless Ben and the Bricks and Minifig Corporation. Well, you know that when on your posts you have comments turned off on every single post that you have on your Instagram, all the way back to who knows, since the beginning of time, every single comment has been turned off on their Instagram page. You know that you're probably in the wrong. Again, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but let's throw it out to you guys. I mean, let's just start with our initial reactions to this story because it's so good. And then maybe a little later on, we can talk a little bit about the interesting aspects of the collecting side of it. But what did you guys think about, this series when it came out?
I've loved it. I am so drawn in by this. It is like, as somebody commented on one of my videos that like it's Tiger King, like that's what it feels like. It is Tiger King for this summer. It started off as the Lego story, but like it's really become much more than that. Like the Lego thing is what, some people still like to talk about, but the police stuff is really, it's almost like I said in my video, and I talked about this, like it's almost scary because it's like you see, like everybody kind of has an idea that like small town police, it's like they're protecting each other, protecting their locals, that kind of stuff. But it's like it's all on camera. It's like right in your face. And I realize that we're getting a curated view, but like that most recent video you can see there, we got the uncurated view, which is basically it's wild. That police station, what is it? American Fork Police Department. That doesn't even sound
real. That doesn't even sound like a real town.
They put out they have basically like a place where you would, like one of the legal channels I watch. It's like basically like a place where you would put like materials for like news stations or whatever, so somebody can get this information and they can talk about it or whatever. And in that they had a Dropbox link, a public Dropbox link. And that link was to the unredacted body cam footage. And they had only been giving out this redacted body cam footage, and they said, oh yeah, all the stuff that was taken out of there was just to protect the victim. And the victim in this case is not the victim that we, as the viewers of all this, think of the victim. It's not the actual person who had their Lego stolen. It's the person that Reckless Ben is trying to get the money back from, this person. I think it's Josh Johnson. But yeah, so they said, oh, everything we took out there is to protect him. But when you get the unredacted footage, you realize that's not what it was. They were taking out things that were protecting the police officers, things that they were saying. And so it's just, it brings out a lot of questions. But there's also, like, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not any of this. And so, like, watching these legal channels, like, this is when you start to learn all this stuff that exists, where you're just like, oh, even if they did all these things that were wrong, they may get away with it because of, qualified immunity and these things that I'm learning about now that, that I didn't know about before, and like the rules around qualified immunity. And it's just like all these things that just, and I think this is what draws so many people in, is because it makes you angry. Yeah. Like, it really makes you angry, because you've got this whole situation where any normal person watching this goes, that person's stuff was stolen. They should be giving it back and giving his money. The police are clearly in the wrong in a bunch of cases. But in the end, like, if Reckless Ben hadn't gone there and started making these videos, that one guy was never getting anything, like nothing. And like, it's just like, is this what has to be done to get any type of justice? Is like just going in with like YouTuber, because like news isn't doing it now. So you have YouTubers going in with cameras in people's faces. And like, I mean, it's very, very frustrating to watch, but it's what keeps you interested, because now you're invested, because you can see yourself potentially in these types of situations. And yeah, I try not to give out too much information on it, because I want people to watch it, because like, really, like, that's what makes it interesting, is like sitting and watching through this and seeing it all play out. And yes, there obviously, like, things, like I said, things are curated for what you're seeing, but it's pretty hard to see it in a positive light for Bricks and Minifigs or that local, like, police station.
I love what Ryan just said, because Ryan's so passionate about this, and he's been invested in this story, and you get
I've been watching so much of it.
No, it's that good. Like, from its entertainment value, I haven't seen half of the videos, but I did watch the primary video, which is like an hour and a half long. The second one is like 45 minutes. And then there's some small things that I've watched. I think everyone should. It's immensely entertaining. It's incredibly frustrating and infuriating. But one of the things that stands out to me is this Reckless Ben YouTuber, this incredibly ambitious, confident, like, I can't say enough positive things about him, right? And I expressed this to Swag too, like, the wherewithal that he has to keep all of this organized, to stay motivated, to be defeated repeatedly, but not feel defeated at all. Just kind of laugh and say, all right, let's cook up another plan. And the complicated process that he goes through, and some of the simpler, more sneaky things that he thinks of to do, it's so inspiring. It's incredible to know that an individual, now there's multiple benefits in it for him. He has a channel that I think he does this sort of thing. I think he calls out scammers. I think he takes down corruption. This is what he does. And so he loves the opportunity to do this, but he's built for this. He and his friends do not shy away from anything. Arrest us, fine. Make us leave the country, fine. Like, one of the things that, and there's like twists and turns in the video that you don't even know that they had already planned. I'll give an example. I thought this was so amusing. In one of the first videos, again, I don't want to give spoilers, but this one I will. It's just a fun tidbit, but there's plenty more like this. There's someone that runs the franchise in question, right? The manager. And every time Reckless Ben or his friends would come in, the manager would call the police, right? And she would do this over and over again. And then towards the end of this video, you realize this has been happening for weeks. And there was this little trick, this little treat that Ben had planted that no one knew about. Well, one day he sent in one of his friends disguised as a delivery person and delivered a package and put this little phone in front of the lady and said, sign for the delivery. And she signed it. But what she signed was a contract that says, anytime you call the police on us, you get fined $5,000. So weeks later, he comes back and says, you should probably stop calling the police. Do you remember signing this contract? And of course, she doesn't remember signing it, but that's the sort of clever, funny, entertaining, and still like, you know, getting the job done, abusing these people, rightfully so. That's the wrong word. That I just think is so amazing. Like, huge shout out to Reckless Ben. All of his videos have millions of views. He deserves them. I feel so good for the person whose family first consigned the pieces. I mean the Legos, because this is rewarding for them too. Yeah, they went through a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, but this is sort of a beautiful outcome. And then, since it didn't just happen quietly, it exposes the corruption not only in, you know, local police and in certain like you know, aspects like that, but also in this company. Like, this is truly, in a twisted way, a very feel-good story, but also so frustrating to know that any collector could find themselves facing this and having to deal with this. And if you're not Reckless Ben, or if you're not connected, or if you just don't have the heart and will to deal with such stress and anxiety, it may not go in your favor, which is the most frustrating thing to take away from this. But
well, because that's what I mean. That's what happened to the original, like
exactly
the son that was selling the Legos. Is that he said like he was going like he was having to take medication. He was having all these like health issues because of the stress, because he felt like he had like let his father down in selling these, because these were things that they were planning to use to pay for kids' college and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, it's that kind of thing that, I mean, it's you think that it looks so cut and dry. And the fact that it hasn't been, and that's where, like, I realize that Reckless Ben has made some questionable decisions legally throughout this process, but it's also, you're like, if this stuff had just been handled properly at the beginning, nobody would have had to take these ridiculous steps.
No,
you know, it's like when that police department calls the whoever it was in like I don't know if it was a like a town hall or whatever, like in Oregon, about the papers that he was trying to serve for that court case. And they're like, oh yes, this is real. And then he's like, oh, and so he learns it's real, and he's like, all right. And then they arrest him anyway. You know, it's like stuff like that. It's like they learned facts about this that proved that he was there for a legitimate reason, and then completely disregarded them. You know, and you're just like, this is why these ridiculous steps were taken that were unnecessary, or that should have never had to have happened.
It's truly an incredible story. If you're somebody who is, you know, a collector, like which we all are, obviously, that are, you know, here on the panel, you guys hanging out in the chat, it is definitely worth watching this one. And it's interesting because, you know, Manu, you brought up the fake contract where, you know, he did the delivery and all this. And I've been enjoying, like you, Ryan, watching the legal, you know, YouTube channels take all this stuff or react to it. Obviously, you know, none of us here are lawyers. Actually, really funny little sidebar, like about a week ago when I first caught wind of this, I sent this to Paul Lesko because I was like, yo, I don't know if you, you know, you want to talk about Lego stuff, but if you're looking for a little bit of a collectible thing to commentate on, I feel like this is going to be really your wheelhouse. But what's interesting about all this is, you know, when the lawyers break it down and I hear their reactions to this, one, it's interesting because a lot of this is always up for debate. You know, where it's like, you know, hey, yeah, technically he did this wrong. Technically the company did this wrong, but they can't stand on this grounds, or this person can stand on this grounds. And I feel like no matter how this story shakes out at this point, the pressure is so like loud, and everybody is looking at it to where it's like, listen, this is just like a common sense thing. And why it's like so frustrating, why people are so angry, because it's just like, I don't care if the company is not supposed to be doing consignments. I don't care if it's the previous owner that technically owes the money to the, you know, this guy or whatever. Like, as the corporation, you got to just pay this guy his money back. And I don't care that Reckless Ben broke all these rules. Like, pay this guy and you deal with all the fallouts that you have with like the various franchise owners. That just kind of seems like common sense. This is where everything should be at this point. And it's just crazy that the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs has dug himself in such this big hole. Yeah. And, you know, like you said, Ryan, I'm sure there's many elements to the story here. I'm sure there are some things, there's been a lot of conversation about, was the collection actually valued $200,000? Like, we all kind of know, like, people say, oh, my comic book collection is worth, $100,000. It's like, check GPA, let's check GPA. And it's not always the case. But man, what a treat the story has been to follow. And if you're a fan of collectibles, you should definitely check it out. But speaking of those collectible things, it reminded me a little bit, just to kind of bring it back to our wheelhouse, of some of the conversations we've been having on the previous episodes, where we were talking about, like, man, like, the one thing with having all this stuff is that, yeah, it's like hard to sell it. It's like hard to move it, later on in your life. Or, we talked about that one guy that had that one signed book that had all the signatures on it, and it just ended up in a Goodwill, and, just because it got pawned off or whatever. And it's just kind of an interesting thing of, like, if you go deep in this collecting world, I feel like planning that exit is really important. And this story just kind of reminded me a little bit about that. Which, granted,
well, I mean, comic collectors, at least from what I've heard in my comments, most of them plan on being buried with them. So, that's their plan. They don't care.
Fair enough. But, for those people, they could do that. But, like, for the other people, at least Bricks and Minifig, it seems like as a company or corporation, they're set up to, like, do this kind of bulk buying. I mean, I don't know if they're just like a CarMax.
I mean, I think the big difference is, they normally will just buy and then sell it. Not like that's the thing with all of this. Like, they're getting into all this, like, little, like, minutia of their business about, like you said, like the consignments allowed or not. It's like, none of that matters. It's just noise. Like, from the perspective of the guy that brought the stuff in, like, this was an agreement that was made. They're one of your franchises, deal with it, but, like, this whole idea of burying people with legal costs it happens, but it really sucks to see it play out live. Like real life people, how it hurt their lives, and seeing how much those companies don't care. Like, that's the stuff that really, that just really, really, like, pulls you in, with this.
And it is really interesting because, like, even beyond that of collectibles, but I'll pull it back in, this concept of, like, citizen journalism, like, this is what it takes now at this point. Like, whatever it is, right? Like, to expose, like, fraud or whatever, all these YouTubers, social media people, they become the story, or they shine the spotlight on the thing. And then that's what people all of a sudden care about. And it's like, the irony of this is that, like, the Bricks and Minifigs would have gotten away with this if it wasn't for you damn kids, essentially doing the YouTube video. And it just kind of reminds me, like even in our space, we talk about grading controversies and things like that. And, it's important. It's important to, like, bring up these issues and talk about it. Obviously not to purposely raise pitchforks, but, it's an important part of the collectible balance that you have to give the companies a little bit of pressure so they can feel a little heat, so that they can remain accountable to themselves as they do, the things that they do. And it's a little bit of a reminder of that.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah. Any other little things about this particular story before we kind of move on, gentlemen?
Everyone watch it. Get your popcorn and enjoy it. It's fun.
Some people ask, like, what some of, like, the legal channels were. Legal Eagle, I think, was one that he's the one that wears, like, the suit and stuff. Like, he was really good. He was very detailed.
Did he do his part 2 yet? I saw he had a part 1. I didn't see the part, if he had a part 2 drop yet or not.
I don't know.
Let me see if I can look up a couple Bricks and Mini.
Legal Eagle and Civil Rights Lawyer, I think, are the 2 big ones.
There was one other that I've watched that he's
Civil Rights Lawyer has a big beard.
Let's see.
There's legal mindset is a big one. Legal Eagle, like you guys said. Those are the 2 that I've definitely watched. Legal Eagle, Legal Mindset.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's Legal Mindset was the other one that I was watching, because oh no, here we go. What was it? It was Lawful Masses with Leonard French. That was one. He has like 200,000 subs. He's been covering it. I think he was one of the earlier ones, and some of the others picked it up, and he's covered it quite a bit. His is definitely a little more dry, but he clearly lays things out for you.
Sounds like a great band name.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be much more coverage of this throughout the coming weeks or so, because the story's
just
not going away
jealous
until there's a
that
happy
we
ending.
can't get that sort of engagement in comic books.
Well,
and
I mean,
cards.
the scary thing is like,
That's just
for,
getting, like,
for all we know,
millions
Reckless
of
Ben is
views.
going to jail.
Yeah.
You know, like he's got some pretty serious charges against him.
Listen,
Is he
listen.
back in the country? Isn't he
Listen.
back?
Well, they have talked about that. I feel like that was definitely just like something for fun on the video, because he's like, yeah, I've been back in St. Louis. I've been in other places. Like it sounds like that was just like an end of the video, like kind of like a, I don't know, like thumbing his nose at them a little bit, like as a joke. Cause there was an interview I think he had with like a local news station where he was talking about like, oh, I've actually been in the country a few times since then. So I don't think he's just hiding out in Mexico.
Now that we talked about this, are we not allowed to go to Utah? Do I need to stay out of Utah? Like, are we
Probably.
banned from Utah? You guys are pretty close to Utah. You might have to be careful.
If you're Mormon, you can go.
Yep.
You know what the sad thing is? The sad thing is like how big it is. Like Rob, it's like comics could never. You know, there could be a $300,000 comic book collection that would be stolen. Nobody would care.
What the funny thing was, like when they were talking about that town, I was like, I swear I've heard of that area before. And it's because it's from the, like, what is it? Like the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives or whatever that show is. Like, I don't know if anybody's watched that one. I have watched it, but it is
Nobody's
also,
watched it, Ryan.
it is also in that area. And so it's interesting how this is all playing out.
It is very interesting indeed.
Very interesting. Well, a lot of people care about that story. Nobody cares about comics, and nobody cares about 9.9s and high grade moderns anymore. But fellas, you know, this happened a couple weeks back on Comic Link. We had the sale of a CGC ASM 252 9.9 newsstand copy sell for $19,388. That is a 20% drop between the last 9.9 sale of this book, which happened to have been just a mere direct edition. Very interesting, you know, like a big haircut there. There were some other 9.9s that sold, which we'll talk about in a second, but there was another modern grail that was of course, the Spider Island ASM number 667 that sold previously 28,800 last year. Now that 9.8 is down to 19,263. This was one of the books that had been kind of sticky. Like it wasn't doing the Drujevich variant thing for Ultimate Fallout 4, where it was correcting. It was actually being pretty competitive and made you sort of think like this was the modern grail. But guys, what do you think about some of these recent sales right here? And maybe more importantly, the 9.9 of this 252 selling at a haircut. Granted, you know, different year, 2026 versus 22. But did this sale surprise you? Do you think it was soft? Do you think it was a good buy? What are your thoughts?
Who's going first?
It's still a ton of money is kind of how you put it. Like the 9.9s are still worth a lot, but it feels soft. Like I think it does feel soft. Like that book is going for what, like 1,500 right now in a 9.8 in a newsstand, I think somewhere in that range. I probably bought in the mid to high 20s. But yeah, I mean, for that one now, for the ASM, the 667, I had like that 28.8 sale. I remember that one because I thought that one was going to go for like 20, I think, when it sold like back then. And I was really surprised that it held up and pushed to 28.8. And so 20 to me isn't a surprise. Like to me, that's around where like it's at like 19 and change or whatever. That's around where I think it should probably be. I just think that other one was just, it's the challenge with that book that we've seen with comics, like from the comic boom period in general, is that with that book, it sells so rarely in a 9.8 that people like, they look at it, they're like, oh, I'm getting it for a deal because the last one sold for 40,000. But it's like, the reality is it's because it sold last like 3 years ago and it should have dropped even more. And now another one came up and then it actually finally gets down to the number where you think it maybe should be.
I see that book available a lot for something that's so rare. It is rare though, right? Like what is the census existence of that in the 9.8?
I mean, I don't see 9.8s of that book very often. Like that come up because I think a 9.8, there's only, I feel like there's less than 100.
For the 667.
Yeah.
Let me pull that up. I do think that they're at 9.8. There's definitely less than 100.
I would
But
hope so at
it's
that kind of price.
yeah, it's very
Well, I mean,
interesting.
but if you think about like a modern book, 100 is very, very low. like I mean,
Yeah, but
that's
20 grand is a ton of money. That's 100 people have to make the decision all the time of they would want $20,000 to $30,000 or that book. That's a lot of opportunity to screw that value up. 15 of those come to market. 15 people need a buck. That value's done. That's a lot to hold that kind of value for an obscure item.
So it looks like there's 25 9.8s for the
That's way less
667.
than 100. Okay.
Yeah. So the 100 number was really like 85 total graded
Okay.
out there. So yeah, 25 9.8s definitely very hard to come by this book. You know,
That is a small
it for
number.
a long time was the modern.
that must have
print.
sold on Comic Link, didn't it?
Oh yeah, these sales were on Comic Link.
Oh, so yeah, so it's not on GPA, and so
yeah.
that sale never happened, right?
No,
That's a $28,000 book right there.
100%. I did mention that. Yeah, sorry, not in our little setup right here, but in some of my posts and videos and stuff, I mentioned, yeah, these will not be into GPA. So, you know, the praise be the holders of these books. They get to make sure that nobody ever knows that you can get it for less than 20. But still, I thought it was just a kind of an interesting thing. Now, let me go back to this real quick, because granted, like you said, Ryan, comic boom, price is different market, but being that this was the newsstand compared to the direct, and I think that current 9.8 newsstands sell at about a 30% premium. Like I pulled it up, it was like, you know, 1,400, let's call it, for a 9.8 newsstand of this book, where it's like a direct, maybe it's like under 1,000.
Right
Like,
now it's under
does that
1,000, but they
element-
were selling higher than that recently too, though. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean.
Yeah, correct. So does that move it for you, change it for you, make it more interesting?
See, the thing though is, though, if we look at what that book was going for in 2022, a direct, like it was May, was about 1,800. There's one sale for 14, but there's 2,000, 2,150, 1,650, 1,820. So we'll say 1,800. So it was a more expensive book than even the newsstand is today in a direct back then. So in that way, it doesn't seem that surprising. You know, it still feels like, from what we've historically seen with 9.9s. Now, I don't know the census count on this book. I don't know how many 9.9s there are for 252.
It's got 8 9.9s, and I know at least there is another newsstand. One of those is another newsstand, because Go Collect has the images. They like, I wasn't prepared, so here's another one, different cert number, sold in 2015.
Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's not a lot of 9.9s compared to some of the other ones in that similar era that we've seen. But I don't know. I still think even with what I said about the direct being more expensive back then, like, just from what we've seen with other 9.9s, what they've sold for, it feels kind of soft to me. But it's still 20 grand for an ASM 252, you know.
It is still a lot of money.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I think that that again was just like the interesting conversation, because at one point we were seeing these 9.9s that were like, say, like a New Mutants 98. Like, I remember one of those 9.9s sold for like 45,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and we had those conversations collectively on our channels, where it's like, is this, you got to be a little worried, like, you know, because you never know, more 9.9s could come, that whole thing. And I just wonder if, like, has the market sort of a little bit caught up to that? Like, you know, sure, I'm still willing to pay a lot, but I'm a little more cautious. Which, let me throw this out before I let you respond. One sale that I didn't get to talk about was the next day, a 9.9 340 sold. This is one of 3. And it also sold for 20,500. There has never, as far as I can tell, been a sale for one of these 9.9s.
I mean, I think
at a different time,
have that 9.9 than the 252 9.9. For me, like, it's just like, I don't know. I'd rather have that one.
So and we are talking about this. We are talking about the fact that the direct went for 20+K, and the newsstand 9.9 didn't even reach that. And that is the conversation. The conversation is, Well, what does that mean if another direct pops up, right? If a newsstand 9.9 is 20, does that mean a direct is 13,000 now, 10,000 now? Because the idea of a 9.9 is already rare, but quite frankly, the idea of the 9.9 newsstand is the wow, right? Because that's the value proposition of newsstands altogether. Yes, there's the argument that, I mean, it's a fact that in later years into the 90s, into the 2000s, the newsstand distribution was a fraction of the direct, so less exist in general. But in the 80s and early 90s and stuff, there was still a lot of newsstand distribution, but the idea is that they were in convenience stores and bookstores, not in bags and boards. They were looked at, read, and put back on the shelf. So the survivability of them in a higher grade is what brings in the additional premium, right? They weren't supposed to exist as 9.8s and near perfect books. That's why people love the newsstand, because they were disregarded and they were treated poorly. So for them to survive, they bring in a premium. And then when you compound that within the later years, there were less of them, then it really brings in a significant premium. There are plenty of examples of that. So the idea of this being a 9.9 newsstand is supposed to, in an enthusiastic market, bring in a number higher than the direct edition in its equivalent grade. Like if we're associating premiums to 9.8s, the 9.9 is supposed to show that in spades, if that's the saying, I think, right? Or something of that sort. So the fact that it didn't does speak a lot to the market. What does it mean for another 9.9 direct to show up? But also, and I say I hesitate with what I'm about to say because I don't want to put a spotlight on this. I want that book to do well, where it exists, who owns it, who paid for it. I want them to feel good about it, so on and so forth. But did that appear as the sort of 9.9 that looked like a 9.9? Is that part of the reason?
By the grade. No, nobody looks at the book.
I understand, but even in a market where people buy the grade, there's plenty of books that have looked questionable for the grade that have performed really well. So there's still buy the grade buyers out there at auction houses. They didn't show up for this book. Like presumably this book, we all would have assumed would have done a higher number. And if it looked super pristine and sharp, would it have, or is the market simply not allowing that because of what Swag said, that people are catching up to the idea that there's going to be more 9.9s, and the newsstand factor didn't even matter here. I would be very curious to know, what does another 9.9 direct do if it shows up? Does this sale affect what people think about what multiple should be paid for the 9.9 direct over a 9.8 direct edition, right? Because we've seen, like Ryan discusses and has showcased on his channel in the past, is that some of these books get a 20x multiple in a 9.9. Are those days over? That's a really interesting question to ask. And maybe they could be over. I don't feel great about saying that, but look, it's kind of a crazy premium to pay for, a grade that may not get distributed all that fairly, meaning there's plenty of 9.8s that look like 9.9s that don't have the 9.9 on them.
I mean, I have kind of like two thoughts on that. One of them is because I was definitely one of the people that was talking about, like, when we saw that big jump in 9.9s for like the Wolverine limited ones and the Secret Wars 8, like maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whatever that was now. I was expecting to see a bunch more, and I feel like that hasn't really materialized. Like when we saw the Ultimate Fallout 4 9.9, I was expecting we'd get some more, but I still think it's still just that one, which is kind of surprising. So I don't know if maybe CGC dialed it back, or if they just like, it was a fluke that you had like 29 9s in limited one, like maybe that grader isn't there anymore or something. Like I don't know.
Well, you know what the key is? The key is that when you send in your Ultimate Fallout 4, make sure that you submit it in the high value tier or the unlimited tier, and you insist to the grader that, hey, this is a valuable book. In fact, I would go so far as to say, if you truly, dropping the shtick, if you truly feel you have a shot at a 9.9, you should put a Post-it note on it and write 9.9 question mark. I think you actually need to do
tell me why it's not.
Yeah, one of our friends in chat, Happy Hour, he literally said earlier in the show that if I remember correctly, we talked about it, that he submitted an Ultimate Fallout 4 in the unlimited value, which means he spent like $135 to grade what would turn around as a $900 to $1,000 9.8 if it were to be a 9.8. No one's really want to spend $150 to grade their $1,000 book. Well, apparently that's what people do in that unlimited, in that other value tier, you know, $105 for $1,000 max value. But again, that's kind of what he's doing. He's saying this is a 9.9. That's why I'm giving you $150 to grade it. Just bump me into the 4% of ultimate value and turn this thing into a 9.9 for me. I hope he does well. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Neo, you got thoughts on this one? Care 9.9s, newsstands?
Maybe they're just all scared of the PSA 10s coming.
True.
My
A
big
PSA
fear with
10
all
would be
of
so
those,
dope
though,
in that.
like we've talked about this before. It's anything where it's like super high value books that are 9.8s or 9.9s. We all know that books can shift in the case if it isn't handled well. Somebody drops the case even on carpet, you know, or it's like too rough in shipping. It can move around in there, and now you've got a corner ding inside the case that says it's a 9.9. And like, then what do you do? What do you do with it? Like, you just like send it to an auction house and be like, this is someone else's problem now.
No, you know, it's funny.
I know that's what people do.
Yeah, it was funny, Ryan. We talked about this, and Manu, like, you know, I don't know how you do it, but like for like value, I would be hesitant to have a 9.9 of whatever book compared to like whatever like for like value of a 4.0 of some other book, because it's like,
yeah.
To Ryan's point, I just put it on that wall. I don't want it to fall off, and you know, whatever. If my 4.0 falls off, I don't know, whatever. It's fine. I'm sure. You know.
Yeah.
So kind of crazy.
It is. It's nuts.
Well, we got to move on now to another collecting category that is one that I am so excited to talk about, because it is the first time that we've talked about this collecting category on the Ungraded Truth. Hopefully more to come. But fellas, just a week from now, 4 days left, Heritage Auctions is having its signature graded video game extravaganza. And the flagship game that is at that auction is what you see in front of you right here, Super Mario Brothers in a PSA 9.6 A++ sealed video game, currently sitting at $796,875. This is already the most expensive Super Mario Brothers auction video game that has gone up for sale. A lot of people saying that it's going to surpass $1 million. The most expensive video game ever, I think, was $1.5 million. Apparently, there was a private sale that went for $2 million, but private schmivate, you know.
Was that a Zelda game, or what was it? What was the
so there apparently there's a $2 million private Mario Brothers that sold.
Okay.
There was a $1.5 million Super Mario 64 9.8 sealed, which to me has to be probably the worst buy out of all of them.
That's terrible.
And then there was a Legend of Zelda NES that sold for $800,000. So this is at least going to be, say, call it the third most expensive video game ever sold. Certainly, you know, in a lot of ways, maybe it's going to go to 1.5. You know, maybe it'll be the second most expensive. You know, maybe it'll be the most expensive auction. Anyways, I say all that to say, very interesting, big number. This lot, or this auction has a lot of you know, big grails going up for sale. There's going to be a lot of value, but it's, you know, ultimately where I want to throw back to you guys is, you know, we've had many conversations about the graded video game bubble as we've been talking about manga, you know, getting all crazy and expensive. You know, the prices were insane. And for the most part, graded video games have not yet returned to those values. But herein is the Super Mario Brothers about to set new records. Granted, this is now established as the highest graded version of this thing, so maybe it should be valued at this. But what do you guys think if all of a sudden this goes up for sale next week and we have these headlines of graded video game sells for over $1 million? Is graded video game markets going to come back? Are graded video games about to explode? What do you guys think about this one?
How could they not? The nostalgia on these things is incredible. Like, look, this thing is freaking cool. Do we have we have pop counts on these, right? Like, we know how many of these are graded and stuff, right?
Yeah, let's take a look here. We got the PSA report. Let me pull that up as you guys.
Okay, no, that's all. That's all. You guys take it from here. I just think this is freaking cool. I love that it's this pricey. I love that there's some enthusiasm. The nostalgia on a Mario Brothers 1 is crazy. It's crazy. That's just too. I but I'm one of the people, like, I always make the argument that I love graded video games. I love graded VHS, and that market is sleeping, but I like it. I think this is awesome. I would love to have a dope sealed graded Mario Brothers. I don't have one. I would love to have one. And people with deep pockets that feel the same way I feel about it, good for them going for this thing. I think this is cool.
I mean, from my perspective, I like graded video. I grew up, I mean, I played a lot of video games as a kid, and we had an Atari, so we had some stuff before the NES, but like it was one of our first systems, or the Nintendo was one of the first systems that we had. So like I've always liked these. I've always liked graded video games. I think they look cool. I do think that there was a lot of questionable stuff early on with them, and I think that really hurt that market. It just made a lot of people lose faith in it. And so maybe enough time has passed where people are starting to get interested again. Now, my only thing that I would be a little wary of with this is that we also had record sales for comics recently. Action 1 selling for 15 million, Batman 1 and the Superman 1 selling for a combined, was it 10 million?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever the numbers were, and it's like the comic market has still been outside of like, I mean, I feel like it's leveled, but it's not taken off. It's not booming like cards and manga and everything else. And so it's still very possible that this could just be high-end market, crazy big sale, but the everyday regular collector market doesn't do anything. I do not pay enough attention to this to really know what that regular market is right now, but that would be my initial kind of like fear or concern. If that's if you were like looking to dump a bunch of money into this, is that we have seen big sales for comics as well, for the grails, and that hasn't necessarily translated to big movements in the lower price books.
Yeah. To put an extra point of emphasis on that, I did pull up the Heritage highest prices ever paid for games. So here's the Super Mario 64 that sold for 1.5 million. This was in 2021. Actually, let me quickly point out, of the top 8, just right here, all of these sales happened in 2021 and 2022. So then you have the Legend of Zelda in a 9.0 that sold for 870,000. I'm pretty sure that that's not top of census anymore. You had this Mario Brothers, which this was the most expensive Mario. This is 720. So the one I just pointed out has already passed this in a 9.6. But I guess, again, emphasizing this point is this Mario sale is going to be the highest number we've seen for a graded video game in however many years. All these ones are 2022 and 21 here. Like, let me see if I can scroll down and see like how far down the price point do we have to go to get to a 24 or a number like that. I mean, pretty far down. We're already at the 100,000 price point, and in this auction alone, this one's going to break that. There's another Mario Brothers that is at 180 right now. That's a mid-production one, if you guys know the distinctions. There's a Legend of Zelda that's at 160. So this auction is going to put graded video games a little bit back on the map, so to speak. And I just thought that was super interesting. But Rob, I don't know. What do you think about graded video games and this whole thing?
Just kind of piggyback off what Ryan said and what you said. It's kind of funny that like for the last couple of months, it's like sports cards are going crazy, Pokemon's going crazy, One Piece is going crazy again, manga's going crazy. Literally everything other than comic books is going crazy when you run through the list.
Yeah, it's wild.
Making my prediction for the year look bad.
I'll say like the one thing I haven't seen yet that typically is the indicator is I have not seen the tradition, like the dealers and stuff that I watch pumping video games yet. During comic boom period, we did. The comic dealers that were out there were pumping video games. They were talking about, they're like, oh, we're buying these, we're selling these. I have not seen that. So
they moved on to manga.
Well, they moved on to manga, but it's like, if this is the next thing, like that's going to be like your sign that it's really there. It's like when you start to see like those dealers, like seeing that they can make money on people, like, oh, then we'll know. We'll know.
It's probably because they don't have them anymore. They dumped them when the value went away, maybe. They don't have anything to pump at the moment.
They're like, they're like quiet. They're trying to accumulate,
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what, to me, the big correlation of a lot of this stuff is really the crypto money, because the crypto NFT big money pump all happened in 21 and 22. And everybody was taking their gains and throwing them into these types of things, Pokemon, all that sort of stuff. And crypto has had its correction. And now people are probably selling out of their positions and being like, okay, where do I want to put this money? And it could be like now's that time that they're thinking to themselves, oh, maybe I'll come back into like a Mario Brothers, or, buy a collectible or One Piece trading card or things like that. So not a perfect, narrative, but at the same time, I do think that there might be some correlations there. And but to the point, that you said, I feel like because the dealers are not necessarily talking about it, maybe this is going to start to be like, oh, these are like the real well, I want to call them collectors, but they're still like kind of more whale, eclectic people that are spending this type of money on stuff. But maybe this is like the real values of these games is starting to like actually find themselves out.
Maybe.
And for the there's a question there. If there was any game from any system you could have graded, what would it be? For me, it would be Final Fantasy VII. That's like I love that game. I love that game so much. I put so much time into that game. But
that's a great one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one right there. So, but yeah, I'm not $144,000 kind of. I wonder what that goes for now. Probably a lot less. Would be my guess. But yeah, that would be the game for me.
What do you guys have a game? Manu or Rob?
I think the first I saw a Final Fantasy 1 box art on there. On the list.
I think I bid on one of those at one point. I think I remember bidding on because I only played one a little bit. I was a little young at that point. My older brother, I remember watching him like back. I don't know if kids do that still now, but like we used to like always just like watch each other play video games, like especially Final Fantasy stuff. You'd sit there for hours and like, someone else is playing and you just watch them play that game. But yeah, no, like the whole Final Fantasy series, I absolutely love it.
Dude, it's such a tough question.
My favorite was as a kid when you would go rent a game from the store, and then you would like rent it again the following weekend, and you would manage to get the same copy that you rented the weekend before, and it would still have your save on it, and you just like $1 million.
That's so cool. I never even had that experience. That's amazing.
That was actually pretty awesome when that happened.
Wow.
That's like one of those things that you say out loud that, like, if you explain to a kid today, they would look at you like you had 5 heads. They'd be like, "Wait,
yeah."
I mean, the tricky thing
I
with
would rent the NES game and I would play Final Fantasy for like 20 hours in a weekend, and then I would save it, and then I would go back the following weekend and hope I got the same copy again so I could pick up where I left off.
I mean, it's crazy how much those games cost back then, though. Like, I mean, even back then, like, I think Final Fantasy, when we bought that, it was like $70.
I remember Super Mario Brothers 3 being $70. I have a vivid memory of my mom taking me to Kmart and like running up to the counter to ask if they had Super Mario Brothers 3 because it was actually kind of hard to find. And the lady like pulling the box out from behind the thing and me just being like, oh. Like
because of that damn movie.
They had it.
What was it? The Wizard or something like that? Was that?
Oh, what an amazing film, dude!
Yeah. Oh yeah, the greatest.
What an amazing film. There's like a little mini like Nintendo Wizard thing that's dope to find and really hard.
So we all learned everybody wanted the Power Glove.
Dude, you see, guys, the way that you guys are talking about this passion, this inner child that comes to life that gets reawakened. This is why. This is why I feel like this has a market and why I feel like VHS doesn't. Because I grew up watching VHS and I couldn't give a shit about Ungraded. There's a lot of us that love that stuff too, man. Like there's a lot of people that when you talk about Back to the Future and certain movies, like it conjures up these same sorts of emotions, but the interactivity of a video game and the playing with your friends is a different level, But it was the same thing. When you're younger, you go, your parents let you have a sleepover or whatever. You get junk food, you get Cheetos, you get candies. You're gonna play GoldenEye. You're gonna maybe rent some movies too, But the games might have a more playful enthusiasm associated. But there's a very similar sort of nostalgia and love in VHS as well. I mean, that's what we're all talking about here anyway. We're talking about graded nostalgia at the end of the day. and what form it takes, one might be more popular than the other. But you're right. I mean, this enthusiasm is why this market exists. And it's just freaking cool, bro. And I can't answer that question. It would be a Mario game. I don't know which one. I spent a lot of time on Nintendo SNES and Nintendo 64, and all of them have like so many hours of my time invested in the Mario games. But I wouldn't be able to pick. I'd be juiced to have any of them.
Yeah, there's so many games, to be honest, that are on my list.
Yeah, man.
I'm all over it. So and some of them I don't quite want to talk about yet because I don't want people knowing
right.
what I keep trying to snipe these games. We literally started the show late. The guys can attest to this. We started the show late because I was like, hey guys, I apologize, but I have to bid on something that ended at 5:02. And I was like, so we're gonna have to start the show slightly late. I did not win it, unfortunately. It went way too high. And that's
because
kind of
video
why,
games
I
are
don't know.
back, I guess. You know?
Video games are back, and now after this thing sells, then I'm not going to be able to buy anything.
No.
Damn, this sucks. Well, you know what's back?
I want
and
graded
also,
video games. Damn it! Sorry.
No, it's great. I want it too. But you know what's back and also right now? Manga, guys. We talked about manga, and these sales happened. And I just got to feel like we got to just be the manga pumpers because we're like the manga shills, like our podcast right here, anyways. But
Dude.
This was interesting. We talked about the Weekly Shonen Jump 51, 34, the Dragon Ball and One Piece grails or whatever you want to call them, graded Beckett slabs that sold on Heritage for like 45,000. Roughly around the same price for each of them. We had 2 more sales happen after the Logan Paul thing, and these ones happened on Golden. And as you guys can see, higher grades than that of the previous thing. But
that says conserved.
Yes,
That's conserved.
Right. 7.5 for the Dragon Ball 80,000 and a conserved 7.0.
I feel like that's somebody that
for
doesn't know what
76.
conserved means.
I feel like it had to be. I feel like it had
I
to
am
be.
pretty sure that's what that means. Oh,
Wait, you
man.
know what's so funny about this? What's so funny about the Golden Auction listing? It says Pop 1 at the end of it. Like, is this?
God.
Does that mean Pop 1 conserved?
The only
Probably. It's
conserved
probably
one,
the
yes.
only restored
Yes.
copy that is out
I'm
there.
my
guessing that's
God.
what that means. Yeah.
Oof.
Hey, but if you're willing to throw 76,000, because
hopefully you can afford to, not have
But-
76,000.
So basically, the manga market is still doing really well. About a month into it doing really well.
Yep.
or I would say, said another way, these sales corroborate, the increase in prices of the other ones, in slightly, in my opinion. Not to justify it, but I'm just saying, like, well, listen, you've now had 2 sales at auction that it's like, here's the new floor, at least for right now, until the floor drops out. But it's like you have 2 examples now, and
I'm curious what the backlog is like for grading at Beckett right now for manga.
Oh, it's probably going to take,
because that's always the biggest concern. Like not for me, like I personally don't care, but the concern for if you are someone who is like, I just spent $80,000 on this, like how many other copies are sitting in their queue right now? Like that kind of thing.
Totally.
Like that's
Totally.
the fear.
There could be a lot.
Their turnaround times are still pretty low. Like I'm looking at the website right now.
What is it? What is it? What's pretty low?
Looks like the low tier is 45.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess at
I
this
don't know
point,
what their breakdown is. Like you could get a
All right.
like an express is like $60 for 20 days, if I'm reading this correctly.
I just want to buy a
we can
sealed
assume
SNES console. That'd be great.
that'd be dope too. Dude, let's go all in on graded video games.
I want.
That's what I've secretly been doing. No, it's interesting because Rob, to that point, I feel like, how long ago was the Logan Paul thing? I feel like that was about a month ago. So like maybe that surge is right now starting to get turned around. In the next, say, couple weeks or so, the census should be flooded, or people should be getting their stuff back. In theory,
I've been seeing a lot of people selling raws for big money, and so it's like almost wonder like how much at this point is just changing hands ungraded, which is just for that cost is so risky. But I mean, that is what I've been seeing, like on Instagram, at least, like a few people I follow, a lot of raws though that are going for tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, maybe people just don't want to send it in and pay the money, or it's just like they don't want, maybe there's the fear that if they send it in and it's like takes 2 months or a month and a half, then market isn't where it was now that it is then, and so you're like, got to take it when you can get it. But I don't know, we'll see. Like it's fun to watch this stuff. I like seeing big explosions in markets and that kind of stuff, but whenever it happens, you should be cautious. Is my opinion.
Yeah.
That's why they call you the double shill.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's move on now to our last couple topics here. Interesting talking about games. We have another game that's coming out, not quite video related, but table related. We have Magic the Gathering announcing their superhero set, which is essentially their Avenger set, coming out at the end of this month. They've been showing out a bunch of the cards. Things look really cool. Obviously, if you guys are in tune to the Magic world, there's obviously a lot of people that don't like all the collaborations that are going on with Marvel. But I think that this one is going to do pretty well relative to what Spider-Man did. Already the original art for the set. Oh, we're going to click out of that. Already the original art for the set has been going up for sale. And people are really interested in this card thing, and it's kind of
that's a cool
coincidence.
That is a cool card.
There's definitely a lot of really great cards right here. Here's an Avengers Assemble. Here's a, I'm trying to see. They did like a bunch of a flywheel of the new arts, or not flywheel, but bunch of different cards that are posted. Anyways, this card set is about to come out in about a month, and then similarly, Topps revealed that they're doing their Chrome Marvel set that is about to come out. What do you guys think about the Marvel cards? Rob, are you in on this? Is your Topps Chrome money going to go to Magic instead? What do you think as a card collector is kind of a better play here?
I would rather buy the Magic. So are we talking sealed or singles? Sealed, I would rather have the Magic product. I think the Topps product, it's I don't know. It just feels like a different. It's not original artwork on most of it, I don't believe. It just looks like a lot of the other Topps Chrome products. I've yet to see, none of the Topps products have really like blown my skirt up when it comes to the Marvel stuff to this point. Maybe Manu feels differently, but it just really hasn't hit the same way as a lot of the Upper Deck stuff used to. The Magic stuff I'm curious about. I think like collector boxes will probably do pretty okay. Spider-Man boxes still haven't performed super well. The no serialized card hurts. This product a little bit. And the play here though is that like people might be sleeping on this one because the Spider-Man one didn't perform super well. So there's like an angle of like people won't care about this one as much. So maybe it's printed slightly less. So there's some angles there to be played. But if you're asking me like which one would I rather buy boxes of and sit on for a couple of years, it would be the MTG one over the Topps one.
I mean, just when you showed the Topps cards versus the Magic ones, like the Topps cards don't interest me at all.
These
like,
do, same.
Like the Magic ones, just they have like they feel like hand drawn. They feel like there's just I don't know. There's just something different about them that I like the look of them a lot more.
And Neo, no, I don't. Oh, sorry.
What do you think, Manu? No, go ahead.
Oh no, I don't disagree with Neo. I was just it made me laugh when you said the top stuff hasn't blown your skirt up. That was funny. But no, I agree with you. Nothing about the top stuff has really inspired me much, and I haven't looked through the Magic set yet or any the stuff out for it, so I haven't seen much of the art. The Spider-Man set had incredible art on it, so I do look forward to seeing the art on this. And I also haven't seen any of the top stuff outside of the 2 pictures that were just put on the screen here, if I remember correctly. That might be all I've seen. I would be curious to flip through that set just to see what some of the inserts are and what is the original art component of that set. I'd be curious, but I haven't looked into both of these enough. I'm happy that there's more product coming out. That's cool. But I agree with you. The top stuff hasn't excited me yet.
Yeah,
I think
one thing
there
that's
some
interesting.
Original, what was didn't you share some original art for one of the top stuff on that Venom card or whatever, Manu?
No,
was that you that shared that, or was it Justin? Maybe
might have been Justin. Then it wasn't me. I haven't shared anything from the top set. I haven't even looked at it.
Okay. Maybe
Justin did a checklist review of
Oh,
it, and so
okay.
maybe he got some access to it and was able to
I thought I
preview.
saw something on Instagram.
Shout out Justin.
I thought
Yeah.
that was me, but maybe it was Justin.
Okay.
Yeah, well, interesting to point out, and I feel like this maybe answered some questions that were out there. Now, Topps obviously has the numbering right here where they're 01 of 99, so there's going to have their chases. It had always been speculated that the reason Magic couldn't do numbered cards was because of that Topps license agreement. The big chase card, of course, from the previous Spider-Man set was the Cosmic Soul Stone. They did confirm that the new chase card for this set is going to be the Mind Stone. So the Cosmic Mind Stone. And in one of the interviews, the person said that there is less than 150. Now, they didn't say that it was numbered, but she did confirm that it is a chase card with less than 150. So I thought that was interesting and kind of like gives validation to, yeah, maybe they couldn't number the cards, but the Cosmic Soul Stone still has, that chase hit in there. I think the Spider-Man boxes, like, I think that personally, I'd rather still sit on them. I'm a believer in them. I definitely want to pick up some of these boxes for sure. Currently, the pre-sales are right around MSRP for the most part, but there's probably always usually a pullback on this type of stuff and opportunities to buy it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about the set, and I like that there's these chases that are in there, and the Cosmic Soul Stone, I mean, still sells for like 35, 40 grand or something like that.
Swag, check your take it off screen and check your IG DMs. I sent you the Instagram post that I was talking about. I believe it looks like there's an original art insert set in that Marvel Comics Topps Chrome.
Okay. Oh, these look cool. Okay, hold on.
Let's see. Okay.
Yeah. Fausto shared these on the Collectus IG page. That's where I saw them at.
Oh yeah, shout out to those guys. Great dudes here. All right, so let me kind of just play through. I think they're going to flash this. Some of these. Maybe they're wrong. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, so there's a Black Cat right there. That looks great. I think on the last show we did, we were previewing that one artist whose name can't quite remember, but it seems like these are the ones that he painted. So
it's real, so it'll just go through and do its thing. Some of them look cool. Some of them
I do not like that Iron Man.
That Iron Man, I don't know. Yeah, that Iron Man, I don't know. There's your.
It's like they tried to go with like one of the old school helmet like looks, and then like
yeah. I don't know about this Venom either, to be honest.
What
but
the
I'll
hell? Can we get a close up on that? What is that? I gotta see this on its own. Where do I? Okay,
no,
I'll look at it later.
It's in the chat, so you can look it up after. But I don't know. That doesn't really feel like Venom to me.
I thought the Ghost Rider looked cool.
Yeah.
The Captain America looks good too, I think. You don't like that with the Hydra flag and stuff in his hand?
I don't like his face. His face is a little. Well, I mean, what do I know? I it's better than I can do, So I don't want to criticize, but
that is not how we judge art.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, some of them look good. I think the Black Cat and the Green Goblin look really good.
Oh, there's a Darkhawk one there, unrevealed.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! I will be going to the chase.
For swag.
You're gonna buy all the boxes now.
Oh, I want both this and I want the Magic the Gathering stuff. Oh, well, shout out to Collectus. So I don't know. Interesting. A lot of trading cards coming up. A lot of Marvel trading cards. Definitely places to put your money. Unfortunately, we will not be able to get them graded. Going back to our earlier conversation, Rob, I guess that's going to be a couple of the sets that are going to be affected.
You can. You just have to be rich.
Fair enough.
Are you too poor to grade cards? Is that what you're telling me, Swag?
Yeah, I have too many comic books that I pay for now, so I can't.
All right, actually.
Go ahead, Muno. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm taking a look at that Venom card. I geek out about this stuff. That Venom is odd. Like he actually has eyeballs. So you can see the human eyes beneath the the white portion, and it's I don't know. It's not the greatest. It's not bad. It's not the greatest.
Darkhawk spots are you going to buy on a Whatnot Live, Swags?
Yeah, it'd probably be $1. Nobody else would be buying them.
That Black Cat is fantastic, and that Green Goblin's pretty dope too. All right, that's all. Little card geeking out. Okay. Yeah, get the Darkhawk, dude. Get the original art for that.
We need to see what it looks like. It's mystery. It's blacked out.
It may be.
Yeah, actually, it may be terrible. That's true. I would definitely be interested to see what the OA for that would be. I mean, I could see myself going for that chase a little bit. I might have to do some box breaks on the YouTube. I feel like I have permission if it's Marvel to do that. But I think that kind of brings us towards the end of our show, fellas. Any last thoughts on trading cards, Marvel stuff, anything like that?
Well, I have a Neo's minute to go with Manu's minute.
No, I don't have a Manu's
Oh.
minute, so we look forward to Neo's minute. I'll just
Should
add
this
a
be
little.
like part of? Should we just this be like part of the interruption? Like whoever wins the show gets a minute at the end. So it's like, no. Is that,
Oh
that,
yeah, that maybe in the
Oh, around the
future,
horn.
like in the
Around
last
the horn.
segment, we have chat vote like who won the show, and then they get a minute at the end.
Oh wow! Now
Yeah.
we're really compete. Oh dang! Okay.
Yeah.
No, we're all winners here. But Rob,
Yeah.
anyways, since
No,
you're the
I'll be at Heroes Con this week. So if anyone's roaming the show floor and sees me roaming around, stop up, say hi. I'll be there Friday and Saturday. And if anyone has a low grade AF-15 that they are selling at the show, slide into my DMs.
I want to see that happen.
there you go. Manu or Ryan, you guys got any little minutes? Ryan, how'd you do on your race? Actually, I didn't ask you.
No, I did well. I did pretty well. I was
Oh wait, we need to
relatively
address.
happy with it. But
We have controversy to address.
yeah. So the reason I'm not wearing a hat.
Yeah, chat wants to know about the hat situation.
We replaced we got a new air conditioner installed like 5 days ago, and 2 days after it was installed, some component of it decided to fail. And so we do not have air conditioning, and it has been 90 for like 4 days straight here. And so I am dying. And I was just like, there's no effing way I am wearing a hat right now. So that is the reason that I decided to not wear a hat. And this is the first time I have ever been on YouTube without a hat. So,
Hey.
but it was like,
Exclusive.
yeah, I saw there were a lot of questions about the hat. I mean, hey, if you want to start a GoFundMe to buy a hat, I will also accept that. But yeah, no, that's why it's it should be fixed tomorrow, hopefully. And then I will not be suffering in this oppressive heat anymore.
We need a sponsor on the hat. Whoever sponsors the most gets the hat.
Yeah. Or we need like shampoo sponsors now, because we're becoming a show that has more hair than hats all of a sudden.
We need beard trimmers. You know, we got to have Gillette
We
or
do.
something. Or
I'll join Team Hat for a while.
Oh, there
All
it is.
right, all right.
Tinfoil
What is that
hat.
hat?
Let's go.
Let me see
Let's
what
go.
that is.
Tinfoil hat.
nice.
Tinfoil time, dude.
Oh,
We
it
need-
is the
we need-
tinfoil.
Yeah, it's literally
We
a
need
tinfoil
full
hat.
That's
tinfoil.
fantastic.
Actually, you know what? I started thinking, we might have to eventually have a segment on the show called like the tinfoil zone. And we just
Oh, there you go.
we just go full tinfoil, you know,
TFZ.
because that's what the people want. We need more tinfoil in
Is
this show.
tinfoil one word?
Let's do it.
I don't know.
Yeah. Manu, I saw
Yes.
people in the chat saying we demand Manu's minute. So, you
Oh.
better make something up real quick.
Well, no, I have a couple of things to talk about, but not in the sense of a story. I like, telling you guys like a story about something that's happened, but something occurred to me while we were talking about the 9.9s, and it was a part of your post as well, and I think even a part of your video, but there was one really cool 9.9 that performed extremely well.
did.
And it was that ASM 375, right? Mark Bagley, Gold Foil, Spidey versus Venom, Ultimate Nostalgia, incredible book, love it. It's like $100 9.8, and if I'm not mistaken, the 9.9 did like $6,100, right? So there's a 60x multiple, but again, you say that sort of playfully because it's easy to 60x $100. You don't just apply that multiple to a $3,000 book and think you're going to get anything near that multiple. But that's amazing to see, right? And was it confirmed that I think it might have been the only 9.9 of that book or something?
Yeah, I was just going to
let
check
me-
that.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm trying to find, a shout out to Comic Link, but their previous sales obviously are.
There is only one.
Bro, what a cool freaking dude. Anybody gets a PSA 10 of that book, hit me up. I want to at least make an offer on that. I think that'd be sweet.
Oh, can I say something about that book? I'm sorry. Like, you guys know that book. That is like cardstock foil.
Yeah, there's plenty
whatever,
of 9.9s
whatever.
that are 9.8s out there.
Yeah, that's crazy
Hundreds.
that there's only one 9.9.
No,
There's
but-
literally like,
Yeah.
I literally can fish in this box right now and I have a 10-0.
I'm telling you, man. No, you're not even exaggerating. Well, kind of, sort of, but I know what you mean. So I think that was a phenomenal sale. That's a fun sale. $6,100, ton of money for that book. But you know what? The hell with it. That's freaking cool. I thought that was great. And then along the lines of an AF-15, yes, Neo is in the market for one, and I hope he gets one. But I also want to give a shout out to our friend James, MJ Comics. He recently, with the help of Ilsun Sunil, sold off all of his slabs and comic books to acquire his Grail, and his Grail is a 1.8 AF-15, and it's a beautiful presenting copy. And he has a bunch of videos sort of going over this process. Shout out to him, and shout out to Gemma, his wife. She's super supportive of him and his passion in the hobby, and she's always, you know, involved in his channel and things, like in the chat with us and now on screen talking about this. I thought that was a great story, heartwarming story, ended well. A lot of our good friends involved in just, you know, getting James MJ Comics to his Grail. So shout out to the whole squad and family there. Congrats again on that book. That was dope. And then lastly, along the lines of super high grade books, we have a friend. One day. We have a friend in chat. Should I say yes? Of course. Oh no, he's talking about it. And I was just about to talk about it. So RMS, our friend in chat, actually has a PSA 10. This was on my list to talk about, and oddly enough, that comment is there. He has a PSA 10 of ASM 311 that's on sale at auction. That's at auction on Golden right now.
And we will be taking 10% of that now for the advertisement.
And so we will see what that's going to do. And that's interesting. I think it still has over a week. So the activity's probably yet to come, but this is a PSA 10 of 311. It is certainly the only PSA 10. Ryan, you can share with us the 9.9 stats on this. I don't remember, but he does say here there's only one ASM 311 PSA 10 and it's live on Golden now, just saying. And I've just said it as well.
There's one 9.9 of ASM 311.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's going to be fun to see what happens. So that's my little end. Shout out to a couple of high grade dope books. Shout out to Ryan RMS. Best of luck on that book. Shout out to MJ Comics, James and Gemma on acquiring that AF-15 and the fun story. So that's it. That's what I got.
There you guys have it. Those were some minutes. But also it was like multiple minutes because the rest of the guys had their minutes too. So anyways, we're going to wrap up the show. Thanks so much for everyone hanging out tonight. Great job, chat. Sorry that we took a longer break between our last show and had to do a special Sunday show. I think we will be back to Saturdays 2 weeks from now. Or no? Are we doing it on Friday?
I think we're doing it Friday.
Okay, is it Friday? Is it Father's Day? I forgot what it is, but it ain't Saturday.
I don't think we actually settled, did we?
No, I don't think we settled.
Yeah, we didn't quite settle. But listen, you know, our show, we're like the mystery box of collectible podcasts. You know, you just gotta wait. You gotta wait for that notification, which is why you always need to hop on over to the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, go over to the Spotify page, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate you guys for hanging out tonight. Can't wait to find out what happens with bricks and minifigs. Can't wait to see you guys on the next show. Talk to you later. Bye.
Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.